Share. All right, you can see this, so just for context, and maybe you can definitely jump in if I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Along the way, all the Zoom bars in the way. So yeah, we're talking about, again, like information architecture. This is UX driven work, making our content better. If you've encountered our Node learning content in the past, this is the scope of the things we're talking about today, right? Is all this content on the left-hand side is a little bit of a, from my understanding, a kind of a time capsule of work that we've done over years and years and years, and then like migrated and all that stuff, right? Is that your?
It was originally donated by Fabian. I forget his last name. So he wrote a huge guide of like learning Node.js, and then he donated it, and then we piled on top of that over.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Yeah. You know, so there's just a lot, and what we're trying to do today is be intentional about how we can explore restructuring it, right? Whatever that would mean.
And find missing articles, like information that should be somewhere that is not, because we all, but.
Right, so, you know, one of the ways that UX people would do that is via, what's called a card sort, right? Where, Aviv has gone, like, the extra effort to work with the hotel to print off all these are all, pages that are like exist on the doc site today. But that's not like the, you know, total scope of what we could potentially be having on the site. So we have on here this slide deck. I can maybe share this deck out too, but it goes a little bit into like what and why we're doing this sort. And then I should definitely share this out because there's a link in here too that's really important.
Yeah.
So let me add that, like multiple things in here. Yeah, so copy this guy. We're gonna put it, we can put it in Zoom chat directly, I suppose. So it's a link to slide deck. This is a link to the GitHub issue we're talking about. And then really importantly, there's this link that we have some pre-configured work for those online. Let me go to that here. For those virtual, there's this tiny URL that Aviv also put together. Thank you, Aviv. Yeah, I thought it worked for me earlier. Oh, you mean to the slide deck? Perhaps?
Yeah.
I'll keep putting it in here. Darcy, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we, I guess, formalize that we should be trying to use chat just so the folks that are online. So we recognize like when they're trying to engage, that like even us here in person probably should be on the Zoom chat.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Just because it kind of makes it all, that really worked. I think we did that in Ireland, it worked really well. So, yeah, just like if we're gonna hopefully engage with everybody that's online, they have equal opportunity to jump in.
The link to that is where?
The link to the Zoom is in the
Node.js repo, Node.js Foundation repo. You go to Summit. There is a link to Chesapeake Bay.
There's really show that. I know a link, but.
So in the README, there's a link to Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah, I was just testing out how quickly I would get
Yeah, I know.
engaged. So you did a great job. So
I'm very used to this corporate life. Yeah.
So for all of you in person, we should just split into 3 groups. Each group's gonna get a stack of cards, and we want you to sort them into where you think they should go on the website. You can make your own articles and your own categories. So ideally, you should work with someone that you don't work with every day. We want to get a broad idea of what goes where. So you can form 3 groups, and each group can take a stack of cards.
It's like each end of the table, one group here.
Sure, one group here, one group in the middle.
One in the very, okay.
Here, middle.
And then there's also cards, like stickies for content that doesn't exist right now, that we should have. If there's things that you can think of, please do that here.
Are you guys also doing?
So are we,
No, thanks.
how are we categorizing? We're putting these in categories?
We make our own categories, however you want to. If you can maybe write some current docs if you want, or look at this stuff, but like, it's our big opportunity to kind of rethink the content we have today and what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing,
Just
right?
in the word thing.
Yes, yeah, all those
Yeah,
down the
right,
side. Like, I need to split this up better.
If people have thoughts, I feel like maybe like Node.js concepts, JavaScript concepts.
Oh.
Understand.
No, I feel like that, that's
That I
like a
can't connect
basic
to her
JavaScript
business.
thing. It's not basic, but it's like a critical
Right.
core.
Hi, I'm Kylie. Nice to meet you.
What was your name? Journey. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Luke.
Luke.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Oh.
Can anyone hear me? Okay. Yes, we're muted in the room, I think.
Great.
Oh, yeah, I've been like wondering if you guys can talk to amongst each other.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's little indication that we wouldn't oh, we are making sound. Great.
There must be a way to make them quiet, to shut off their speaker in the owl on the table. Rory, can you try and do that? Because I didn't want to make a feedback loop, so I'm just in the hallway. It's not clear. Okay. Yeah, because like we're doing small groups and there's no way you could pick up all that audio and you don't want to anyways.
Can you use Zoom's breakout feature?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's see.
Uh,
I am not the creator of this Zoom, so I don't think I can do it. I can ask Roy quick. Maybe he can. Hey,
in the room, can you confirm that you can no longer hear us? I guess that's a tough question, right? If you can't hear us.
I'll step back in there in a second.
Loud and clear. Uh-oh.
All right, just give me a sec.
Brian's pointing at the microphone, so I'm just talking now to see if you can actually hear me in the room or not.
All right, I think we are set. I think. Welcome everyone online. You can all hear me?
Yep.
Yes, okay. Hey, how's it going? So sorry about that. There is no breakout room. It needed to be set that way through initial, creation of the meeting or whatever. So we're not gonna do that, but the folks that are online can kind of function as a group of themselves, hopefully. Did everyone get a chance to hear what we were trying to do? And understand it? Are there any questions? No? That's okay. I'll walk through it again, okay? So this entire idea, you can see my screen, yeah. It was born out of the Dublin Collab Summit where we were talking about the learn content on the website, right? All the stuff on the left-hand side. Tierney had said that this was like a large content migration from someone years ago, and we've been building upon it and expanding upon it for a long, long time, but we've never really had a moment to holistically think about what it should look like if we wanted to start over, or like really iterate on it, revamp it, revolutionize what we want it to look like, whatever. So the goal of this session is to work together to make what you'd call in like a UX exercise, a card sort. We take each one of these issues, each one of these these learn content items, and try to group them in such a way that it's approachable to people learning the content, learning Node the first time, right? So our goal is to do that. They're doing that right now with paper in the room. Online, I think we can do this using some of the tools that Aviv and I had set up ahead of time. So we have this tiny URL that Aviv made, and it goes to an open source tool that I found, and it has this like super long like data structure within it already, that has all the content already stored. If you want to do this a different way, you're welcome to. I think it would make sense if maybe we all worked together on it as one like online group. But I think we can choose however we want to. So that tiny URL goes to this this website, and you can drag things into your kind of these existing groups. You can also create new categories, create new cards if you want to, but it's a little bit of a collaborative work session, right? Like it might work best if one of you goes off a mute and like kind of drives, or if you feel like you'd rather watch, that's okay too. We're probably not going to take the whole time, and hopefully this kind of works as a hybrid model. But it's definitely a little bit more like a work time to think through this stuff. Any questions or concerns?
So you just want us to reorganize the content?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, from feedback in Dublin, there was a lot of discussion around how best should we be presenting our content, right? Like, there's been debate over time as if this is the right way to do it. It's grown organically over time. And are there better ways? Are there different ways to think about it? So yeah, basically, yes.
Cool.
Okay. Jacob, how many people are there with you?
Antoine and Shungsong and Zhang will join in like half hour.
That's sweet. Okay. So I don't know if you guys have the ability to like drive, or if you want to try to use some of this content that we prepared already. And Brian and Richard, I think I see you on call too. If all of us want to work together on one, like we could definitely do that. Whatever. I don't have to keep sharing if you want to do it a different way. I don't know. If
Hold
it's
on, can I? It doesn't look like, so I just pulled up that tiny URL thing, and I see
Yeah.
that you dragged getting started intro to Node.js under getting started. It doesn't show that on my
Yeah, it is not
browser.
it's not a synchronized environment. This is like some random
Ah,
tool I found. It's just like one client, right? It's
got it, got it.
very stateless. So it was useful as a free tool. There are tools that do what you describe as well. But
Mhm.
this is the one that we found.
Ah, okay. Marco had one in Paris that he was using for the survey results. Maybe we can use that for next time.
Yeah, and if however we want to do it, we can. I don't know if it'd be easy to like export this data. You have to probably someone would have to type a lot, which wouldn't be very
Okay.
fun. Um,
Well,
so
there is the share result button at the top, and it just gives you another URL.
right,
I don't know if
yeah,
it might be the same URL, but it basically encodes everything into the URL, and then you
right,
go to the
yeah.
URL.
One of
Yeah.
the big advantages of this tool that made me want to use it is that it can take multiple results and compare them and find similarities, and then we can eventually do some light analysis on like patterns that people agree upon and stuff like that. So
Cool.
yeah, I think I'm willing to help too, but like it's a little bit more of like on you guys to want to engage and do it together too.
How much time do we have?
We're not gonna spend the whole hour, so we might be down to like 15 or so minutes, and when we want people to talk about their what they learned or what surprised them, or I don't know, whatever. So this one might have been a tough one to like start the day with and like figure out the IT around, and I apologize for that. You can uh, bring it up with my boss on the Node project. That was a joke. Yeah. Um,
All
so
right, so we need a driver.
that's right.
Well, aren't we gonna sort of do this separately and then come back? Or are we doing this?
We are the separately. The
Yeah,
remote group is one separate group doing this collectively.
that's correct. Yeah, right now there's 3 groups in the room doing it separately as well.
Ah, okay.
So separately as a group.
Yeah. It's
Well,
it's like a middle school small group exercise. Yeah.
okay. Well, Brian, you're currently sharing, right?
I am,
Yes.
oh, wait, that Brian, whoops.
Well, it looks like we have our driver then.
Yeah,
Two
that's fine.
Brians and two Jacobs. This is gonna be fun.
We'll go by last
Um,
names only.
yes. Okay, so then I can close this one. So I guess they will just ignore us in the room
Yeah,
We hope.
on site.
yeah.
Okay.
It should be
Um,
okay for now, and then we'll turn all the stuff back on for the more traditional talks.
okay. So for the getting started section, there's the introduction to Node, and then in a few of the other sections, like TypeScript, there's introduction to TypeScript. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if those should be listed in both places, because an introduction to TypeScript seems relevant to getting started.
Yeah, that's true. And like maybe, if the tool doesn't work great, like we can even just capture some of these insights in like in a Word document, or something like that would be just as useful. But you're talking about this, right? Intro to
Yes,
TypeScript.
yeah, exactly. And I think there's also like an intro to test runner and stuff like that.
Okay. So let's see how we could try to convey that over here. I thought there was a way to make new cards too. I used this tool for a couple minutes to get to like prove it out, and then promptly forgot about it for months, right? Even if we get that kind of data or your feedback captured like that, I think that's useful. We might not get through all the cards.
Okay.
And I think
So-
that's probably just, for feasibility standpoint. What other thoughts do people have around the learning content? Has everyone read all the learn content?
Not really.
No,
Yeah.
I've read quite a lot of it, but not all of it.
Yeah. The
Yeah, I see
EX one
shaking.
and beyond. I'm not sure it's relevant anymore.
Which part?
The getting started,
Uh-huh.
ECMAScript 2015.
Did
number five.
did
Yeah.
did the old guides get migrated to here?
I think everything on the so there was a parallel website that wasn't the Node.js website. The is it Node.js Dev? I think it was.
Yeah, I think so.
And everything from Node.js Dev was migrated.
But not the
and-
guide session on the original Node.js website, right?
I think they were merged together, as in everything was just put together.
Gotcha.
I think Rich Trott did delete some of the obviously outdated stuff that was on the old Node.js.org website, but a lot of this stuff is from Node.js.dev.
Aha. I just saw one in the list that I wrote like 10 years ago, so at least some of it's still there.
Yeah, so some items of the list, especially for diagnostics, we have either removed or replaced because they get, most of them are attached to the V8 version, how to read the stack trace and things like that. So some data was removed because it was simply not working.
I think that's the perennial problem with anything that goes up on the website is, people, whoever that is, keeping stuff updated as things change in Node. Because it's quite easy to put something up on the website. It's much harder to keep it current and make sure, we're not misleading people or, get into situations like this where it's just so much information now it's difficult to sort.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of ground to cover quickly, and like we're not MDN, so like we can't we cover some of it, but not all of it, and it's certainly confusing.
I think the biggest problem with this is working out when something in the whole list of things is relevant to, whatever reason you've come to the website to learn about Node. There's a lot of stuff there, and it's like some of it is diagnostics is probably an easier one, which is like you've got a problem and you're trying to figure out how to even like start. But some of it is kind of like, well, the TypeScript stuff, you probably only need that if you're thinking about using TypeScript or going to use TypeScript. Otherwise it's completely irrelevant. So
What if?
Yeah.
What if we include to the guide section somewhere the last reviewed at like a daytime where the blog post was reviewed, like not when it was created, but when it was double checked. For instance, for the diagnostic, we have some a tutorial how to generate a flaming graph. If we do a check once per year, that would make that blog post more relevant with a more active reviewed ad.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Raphael. And certainly easier. We're capable of doing that with even just Git metadata. So
Yeah.
that might be captured somewhere in the issue log, but I'm taking notes. Like I think we probably won't have time to do the whole card sort, but I do appreciate just like everyone's like thoughts and observations that we have so far, right? We'll capture those. One thing that I remember from Dublin, I think, is that there was this. I don't think we resolved whether or not the learning content should be linear. Like there's a linear journey from like nothing to some other point in time, or if it just needs to be more a la carte, or like just kind of structured in a sense it is now, right?
I don't know if linear is the word, but focused is probably better, or paths or whatever it is. Because I don't think there's any real, well, maybe I'm wrong. I imagine like your first question was, has anyone read all of this? I can't see there being a single linear path where if you do that, everything in that linear path is going to be relevant to whoever it is that's reading the content. I think you could maybe construct a linear path that wasn't all of the content, but you would have to know or figure out what the intent of the linear path is.
Yeah.
Like, do you want, for example, to make, I don't want to sound like I'm picking on TypeScript, but you can write a learning path that does and does not include TypeScript. So the question then is, are we saying that everyone new to Node needs to learn about TypeScript? Or is it just enough to say it's there if you want to learn about it?
Yeah.
That's all you say in the getting started, and then point them to something. So I think it's hard because even like the diagnostic stuff, it's like it's good to know the diagnostic stuff is there, but I think it's a little bit harder to read if you don't have something that you're currently either looking at or you've got the tooling to start looking. Yeah, you've got to have something to look at to make it make sense, I think.
Sure. And I would argue like a concept like the test runner is probably more approachable or like used more often than the diagnostic features, right? And like it was probably just shoved there at some point for whatever reason. Yeah, Brian, how's it going?
I was just going to give another example along that line, which is the asynchronous work category in here. Everything that's in there is, well, not everything, but pretty much all of it is absolutely critical stuff to understand in order to build a Node.js application that isn't wildly broken. So to me, this is an example of stuff that should be on the initial path, the getting started path, the focus path, whatever.
Would you say like right now it's not really, doesn't present itself as essential?
I don't think
Fair?
anything on the page at the moment presents itself. Well, you're either looking at thinking everything on there's essential, or you're looking at thinking, well, I don't even know I don't know what I'm looking at. And I think part of the problem we're going to have in the group of people, both here and in the room, is we already know Node.js. And if the point of reference is getting started for someone that doesn't know anything about Node.js, it's like, how do you present the minimal information for them to get started without completely overwhelming them and scaring them away? So I do agree that you need to understand some basic principles about the asynchronous stuff to be able to write Node. But I think, you can't really say read all of that because that's just way too much for getting started. So it's yeah.
Yeah, I love all that. And it's always good to remind ourselves that we are not our users.
Yeah, so that's why it's like, we can look at it and say, oh, there's a section here on, blah, but then you have to keep asking yourself, is someone starting out a Node even going to know that's a thing, and like that they even need to look at or consider?
Jacob in your room and your cat, you guys have your hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so a couple things. One, we were talking about how a lot of the content is not actually linear. If you pull up the site, the bullet points being connected like that on the left-hand side, it looks like a timeline. So that suggests that you should follow those things. But then if you look at the introduction, like the getting started section, none of them are really like one needs to come before the other. I'm wondering for the getting started section, something Richard made me think of. Maybe we should have as an introductory part of the introductory article. Actually, I don't know if I've ever read Introduction to Node.js. But I'm wondering if there we should have sort of a tour, not like the thing that guides you around the site kind of thing, but like an overview of all of the major things, just like the bare minimum. This is what this is. This is why you might care. And then, for instance, like diagnostics, I probably, like as a new user, I probably would not open that. And then I wouldn't know why it's useful. So then when I do need it, it doesn't occur to me to like, oh, this thing is here.
Yeah, really the homepage or this first page could give you like those pathways, or could, you know,
Yeah.
tell you these are different journeys you could make on your learning journey. I like that. I will write that down. We're gonna convene back as a total group now. Thank you
Okay.
guys for entertaining like this bizarre session. I think it was good feedback along the way, and we're gonna have people maybe describe their observations, and then we'll move on. So thank you. I know
Cool.
hybrid is always a shit show, so appreciate it.
No, thank you, Brian.
Like perfectly behind my laptop. Yeah, crazy. I think this is the first.
Hello.
Can they have a smaller device? A little bit.
I did not help. Damn, that sucked. I was hoping the focus would get better. It was better earlier.
I don't know if you can hear them.
I got it.
We can, we're talking.
Okay. You all sorted the cards. We got a lot of great feedback. Does anyone have something to say that like that was missing or that needed more content or did we refresh? I know a lot of you had extra time and were looking over the site. No?
Can you clarify the question?
Yeah, while you were looking over the site and we're sorting the cards, did any of you find content that was missing or outdated? Where do you think we need to improve or add more?
Well, there's the TypeScript runner.
Yeah,
We crossed that one out.
Yes.
Yeah.
HTTP needs like more than one article.
Yep,
Yeah.
we said that too.
And
Or I said that.
needs to include fetch, you know, make sure it's all fetch.
Oh, patch doesn't have anything, does it?
Right. And then there were people online, there were a lot of observations. I'll just maybe read through them. Since I was doing, no, we didn't do the full card sort. But there's stuff on there like your ECMAScript 2015, you know, like we're well beyond that now, like, oh, we're not MDN, like where do we find the right line for things? There was also, like, just organically, there's a lot of introductory pages, like introduction to TypeScript, introduction to the test runner. And all that stuff's kind of important, but like maybe that should be surfaced onto like the top level intro page. So people can kind of choose their pathway if they are just going to like /learn, they're going somewhere and they can kind of choose where they want to go from there. There was definitely a collective kind of chuckle that like no one has read all of this in a long, long time. So maybe that's like a takeaway or a challenge for all of us. I think Raphael has suggested introducing some kind of last updated or last reviewed metadata and any system to review content, of course. Can't remember, I think Brian, you had said that asynchronous work is super, super essential to all Node projects and apps, but it's kind of relegated into this like section right now that maybe seems like it's not essential and really it's kind of like the whole thing. And then there's also mentioned that the sub navigation on the site is kind of presented in a way that it looks linear when in some cases it's not. So maybe some design work needs to be done there. Did I miss anything else online, folks?
No.
That's a no. Okay. Well, yeah.
That's either in the order they came here.
Yeah, the whole time I was just speaking to the room. Well, thank you all for doing that interactive session. So it's a little bit different. Be good for content in the future.
Awesome. Okay, so we did end up a little earlier. Brian Rubin, I know you mentioned you wanted maybe 15 minutes to bring something up. Do you want to maybe take until 10? But I'll have to cut you so that we don't get late for the other sessions. Is that fine for you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, cool. Do any of you want to? This is a kind of impromptu topic, so please, go ahead, introduce the topic.
Ruben, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, all right. So we were discussing actually that we very frequently have the need in the ecosystem for different things where we want to know how the language is actually parsed. We don't need to have a specific parser, like the tokens there are normally all fine for example, we have Acorn in the ecosystem that is strongly used. We have SWC that is strongly used. There are other parsers out there. Obviously, V8 has its own language parser and tokenizer. And as such, like we need it for ESLint, we need it for other tools, and more tooling is actually relying on these things. And we were wondering if it actually makes sense to consider exposing one type at some point. And like the difficult part is probably the tokens, like to have a fixed set of tokens that we could keep stable or not. Like ideally, it's obviously something where we would probably use the V8 own parser. Questionable if we can make that happen or not. And it's more of like gathering like the overall feeling in the room about, do we want to consider this further, or is that a straight out no, that is not the direction where we should have to expose something like that to our users by Node directly or not? So it's more of like getting like the feeling in the room. That's my perspective. Brian, could you please like add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, this came up when we were talking about tools like Orchestra.js, where we need an AST at some point in order to do code transformations, right? That is the point of Orchestra.js. By the way, thanks TSC for approving the transfer of that earlier this week. But like Ruben said, there's other tools. There's transpilers, there's linters. Everybody is using a linter of some kind. or prettier or things like this, it would make sense for it to be built for the core component of this, basically parsers and perhaps to a certain extent generators, to be built into the runtime so that this component, which is useful basically everywhere, doesn't need to be included in userland and can be loaded immediately as well. This would help in a bunch of other cases where code transformation has to happen at runtime. For example, in lambdas or things of this sort, for observability tools. Yes, of course, I'm going to talk with an observability tool lens, but it's of course useful for all kinds of other things too. And of course, another APM vendor joined in the chat and said, yes, I'm in support of providing runtime access to EST. What's up, James?
Yeah. The idea of doing this, I'm absolutely supportive of. Do you have a concern, like, like we raised that, maybe we could just use V8 since that's there. I do not see, like, we need V8 people in the room to say for sure, but I do not see them being too amenable to us just exposing details of their parser as an API. That's typically something that they like to iterate on and change and not have to worry about breaking Node users on. So I would be shocked if they came up and said, yeah, that's fine, do that. So I don't know if that is a option that's actually on the table. But yeah.
Would they be opposed if you're just exposing the final result before Node takes it and does what Node does
It
with it?
depends what that means, right? If you're saying, here's the final result, cool, as long as they can change the final result without it being a breaking change. Like if they need to change some aspect of what that produces, right? Then that's going to create an additional burden on them, right? And we've tripped them up before by exposing things that they didn't want to be exposed, and I don't want to do it again. Right? So.
I very well understand that, and I have similar concerns actually that they are absolutely not in favor of that. And now that's why I also said I believe before we actually go into okay, like how would we expose it? Maybe first we should all be in agreement about, do we want to expose a kind of AST?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've heard, I've heard this come up many times. People want this. I think it's, yes, I've never heard anyone argue, no, we don't want this at all. It's just devil in the details here. So, it's not a trivial thing to build.
Well, the end goal really is to be able to transform or do something with it prior to Node receiving it and doing what Node's going to do, right? So it would definitely increase the bundle, what have you, but what about including something like SWC or whatever to initially read and parse it, give it to whoever's going to use this API and get back the result and then feed it to V8. That way you don't have to deal with V8's issues.
Well,
How big-
Jacob has his hand up on the call.
How big is SWC, just so I have absolutely no clue. Me too. Yes, yeah.
It's also Rust, which.
It's also built in, which I think Jacob's about to talk about. Like we already have it. Jacob, you are muted.
Thank you. Yeah, that was just a side point. SWC is already in Node to support TypeScript, so it wouldn't cost any extra I think, unless the stripped down version that we have doesn't have this functionality, but it surely does. But no, the thing I was going to mention is so there's ambiguity about the final result. I think this would like the thing to concern ourselves with is it final enough? So for instance, if I request this AST and it gives me something that is like not helpful, or like this was the original, but it has changed a lot or something, then that's like bad information is worse than no information. So if we can provide something that is at least like, yeah, good enough, then yes, but if we're going to provide bad information, then I think we should not do that.
And bad information there, I think also needs to make sure we include, if we're doing this before we pass something to V8, we have to make
Mhm.
sure that what we send to V8 doesn't short circuit their own optimizations and their own, tricks that they're doing that actually make things fast and everything else. So it's like, we don't want to put a speed bump in, just to accomplish a set of use cases.
So basically, Chongsong and Choi, how do we avoid that? You don't have to answer now, just.
Yeah, I'm
You
thinking
probably
so.
know that.
When it comes to speed bump, I believe actually when the feature would be used to transform any code, well, then it's obvious that there is some overhead, and otherwise it should not have any impact at all. That would be my take on it. It also about Jacob, what you were saying. I believe what you're speaking about is the token stability, pretty much, right? The AST stability over time, which is a very tricky situation because the language itself is actually transforming over time. So we will have to adjust tokens at times, and we might want to add some at some point. We do have API stability, we have API stability, and of course we could have an AST stability kind of thing where we define that is the token, like a specific type of tokens, and maybe you can even declare a version to get a specific kind back. I believe that would be best in this case. And that's why I also believe it's very valuable in discussing it here in the round, to really think it through, like how could we make it happen?
Yeah.
So regarding this stability, I think the syntax is stable in a Node.js major version because we don't backport V8 syntax change to previous LTS versions. So we can say that for a certain Node.js LTS major version, the syntax should be stable and the AST can be stable. But the question is that how can we when the T39 introduces new syntax like import, specifically I think there will be multiple syntax that's going to be changed in the module syntax like import defer or in the export defer. That would make the structure shift, and I don't think we can provide that stability guarantee across different Node.js versions, because that would, like, if we say that would be stable, that would basically means we are going to kill the new possibility to introduce new syntax. So I just say that for a certain Node.js version, the AST can be stable.
I know this gets complicated, but that sounds absolutely all correct. I mean, within a certain major line, we should be able to like guarantee no breaking changes to the AST. If we update and the new version does change the AST, can we continue to support the down level versions? Like, would it be possible at least for us to continue to produce the older version? It gets a lot more complicated to do, but if we could at least do that, it, you know, it erases the problem even more. Right, it makes it even less of an issue.
I think the answer is that it's probably not a simple answer, because like for import default or import source, the structure can be like creating a new nested subtree inside the previous AST node. But if it's like appending a new node to a specific AST node, that would be compatible. But if it's like shifting the structure of the tree, that would not be compatible. I would assume, like in userland, user would expect a stable AST tree structure. So yeah, I think that would be really hard to guarantee.
Ruben has his hand up.
Yeah, Ruben, do you want to maybe wrap up just this segment of the conversation, right? Like, and if we have time at the end, we can continue to talk about this at the end of the summit. We could potentially stay longer here.
Yeah.
The schedule is standing at 4, so. But yeah, Ruben, if you just want to say something else, you had your hand up. But otherwise, I'll change to Jacob for the next session.
Just to wrap it up, thank you. And like, I won't go into any of the conversation anymore. It's more like, is anyone against it? Because I believe so far, actually, we had a good +1, and there are difficulties around the stability, absolutely. And I believe we have to define this way more clearer overall. Like in this case, it was really like getting the input, and like so far, I don't see any one being concerned. So that's already a big plus. So thank you very much.
Cool, awesome, thank you. Cool topic to bring in. Nice, Brian has some fireworks, so seems to be happy. Okay, Jacob, I think it's you, and yeah, I don't know if you have any ears. You're muted if you're trying to speak to someone.
Yes, sorry, 1 second, I'm getting, how do I share? Yes.
Is always good with you? Who else is in the European side?
It's 3 of us.
Oh,
Changeling and open.
wait, what just happened?
Someone said
Can you guys see
presenting.
my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason, so I have like yeah, I've got it here. I've got like the stuff up on my TV, and Zoom decided to take away the thing from the TV just completely. Okay. Anyway, all right. So a quick update on userland migrations. So this came out of Dublin last year, and it's been about a year. So what has happened? Okay, so originally we started with a partnership with CodeMod. This is Alex in the middle, who's the head of CodeMod. And then this has grown into like an official partnership with OpenJS. And so it was me, Alex, and Augustin. And now the team has expanded a bit to include Mo, also from CodeMod, Aviv, and most recently Bruno. So far we have 16 migrations already published in the wild and being used. We have, I think, 6 more that will probably land by the end of the week or early next week. List of them there. From then to now, there have been like night and day changes. We've had a pretty close collaboration with CodeMod and have provided like tons of feedback for them, which they have implemented particularly around test automation. Before, it was quite painful. And now I think it's maybe one of the best testing experiences I've seen. It's pretty like WYSIWYG kind of before after stuff. And when something is wrong, it works really well. So we're quite happy with what's been happening there. They have made huge improvements also to the authoring and to the AST, which has made this massively more difficult, massively simpler. It used to be rather confusing, and now people who aren't even that experienced as programmers are able to use it. And now kind of the biggest problem is understanding what the migration itself needs to do and handle. So that's kind of great. We have some utilities that handle the heavy lifting that Bruno has put together. They handled a lot of like very complicated, tedious things like updating imports. This is particularly common for deprecations, where something like an import from, let's say, FS gets removed and then it needs to be replaced with something else. There's quite a lot of scenarios that you don't initially think of all the crazy things that users can do, and this handles them. And we now have 5 repeat external contributors who have contributed 2 or more migrations. So great to see the community getting involved here. Augustin did quite a good job of recruiting these people. So our first big goal is to handle migration from Node 24 to 25. So basically, a user would install Node 25 on their computer and then run this command, and all their stuff just now works in Node 25. So of the things that we are aware of, there are 26 deprecations that were introduced in Node 24. We have 9 of them handled. And there are 2 breaking changes that are migratable, at least of the list that I saw. These appear to be the 2 that are migratable. If there are more, please do let us know. I only discovered these when I was looking through the release notes of Node 25. So more on that in a second. So we're hoping to have the remainder of these deprecations handled in the next few weeks, especially with the momentum that we've been getting lately. In terms of reaching users, this has mostly been a quiet operation. So it has not been heavily publicized. So users finding these is mostly organic. They found that through CodeMod or following Skeets on Blue Sky, just from the authors of the migrations. So we're about to publish migration guides on Node.js.org. Those, I believe, are done and about to merge. We were thinking that it would also probably be very useful to users if the migrations were included as notes in as a note in release notes. So for instance, like this deprecation has been added in version 24.3.2. Migration is available. Here you go. Because that's primarily, I think, where users are getting their information is from these release notes. We've also added them to the deprecations page. So when users are looking through, it now says deprecation, I don't know, 30, automated migration available, run this thing. And we're thinking possibly to Skeet tweet out the guides following a release once they are available. More on that in a minute. So we do have some open challenges and questions. One of our biggest things is how can we, the migrations team, learn about deprecations and breaking changes ahead of time so that we can then create the stuff for them if the author of those deprecations or breaking changes doesn't make it themselves. And then also, what other things would be useful to have a migration for? So for instance, Carlos is working on a migration from Jest to Node Test Runner. Is there anything more like that that we would have? Marco had proposed switching Node's configuration file from node conf JSON to package JSON. This is something that we could put a migration together for pretty easily because it's mostly just like a cut paste type thing. And then that could be incorporated into a recipe that contains other migrations. So then user kind of just runs it and then all of their stuff is fixed. So yeah, that's basically the update. And then I was hoping to crowdsource some ideas on how to handle these things, if there's anything else people are interested in. Yeah, James?
Yeah, I mean, this is excellent work. I think that there is a massive backlog of existing deprecations that need to be worked through. For instance, I mean, it's become almost a running joke, but there's still lots of new buffer out there. You know, when, you know, it's been there for years and years and years. There's just thousands of modules out there that are still using new buffer. You know,
okay.
If we could be focusing on like some of those, you know, I mean, yes, the new deprecations, like I'm responsible for like a lot of the EO, you know, the Blythe ones, you know, earlier and you know, this year. Tried to do that early enough where it was well advertised in advance before 25 came, and I think like as long as we keep doing those well in advance, like kind of like what is coming, you know, we can make that workflow a little easier. But how do we deal with all these ones that are already there, the hundreds of deprecations that are already there that still haven't been dealt with?
So I'm thinking we will probably work backwards. The most pressing ones that we can handle that get people up and running for the most recent version of Node, and then yeah, work back through. But we can also, like, if there's one that's particularly pervasive and important, like something that we want to remove, like Tootsuite, then we can front load that. It would be super helpful if when someone introduces a deprecation in the pull request, they somehow ping the migrations team so that it's on our radar. So even if, for instance, the pull request lands like well in advance, we don't watch all the pull requests in Node because there's a lot of them. So it would be great if yeah, if people could help us be aware of them.
Well, I mean, the automation can easily automate that. Like, you know, the tooling could just say, hey, you updated deprecations MD or added a deprecation warning to automatically notify the team. So yeah, that's something we should just do.
Okay. Yep. Please. How do I get that in? Who can help with that?
I think that's
Yeah, well, I can't remember where the exactly what we're using for that stuff is. It just GitHub Actions.
I think it's
It's a GitHub action that brings the code owner's file.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, we just need to update the GitHub action then, we made a PR.
Okay, cool.
It's the code owners file. So if you open the code owners file, I think that's in the .github directory. There's a list of file mappings to teams that get pinged. And probably the easiest one is to when someone updates like deprecations.md in the docs. Because every deprecation is supposed to be listed in deprecation.md. So that would be the easiest way. The other thing I was going to say, I probably jump in the queue here, is for like the release notes, we run changelog maker. So yeah, there's a way to retroactively look back and see which changes were labeled as deprecations or tagged as deprecations by, you know, the release team running the changelog maker, and that looks at the labels and pulls out the ones that were deprecated so that the release notes bunch them all together. So there is some tooling you could run after the event if that also helps if you want to something else to check things that, you know, maybe the automatic notifications miss.
Okay, awesome, thanks.
I would also just say, just as a convention, maybe not necessarily a hard policy, but as a convention, runtime deprecations and, you know, end of life deprecations should, we need to try to not bunch those up within 3 months of making that major. We need to give plenty of time for those, right? So as early in that kind of that 6-month prep cycle we have as possible for getting those in will give us the most time to prepare the migrations, start getting them, you know, ready to go for the ecosystem. So again, I don't think we can make it a hard policy because sometimes things just come up. But you know, just as a best practice, let's try to front load those as much as possible.
Cool. I think Wes is maybe next.
Yeah, okay, so you talking about the new buffer thing made me think about this, but I think there's a ton of these. And getting that rolled out to the ecosystem, you said like there's a lot of libraries that are using these things that have just been hanging for years. Code mods are not going to solve that problem because ESLint rules have been around for those for the entire time and have not solved the problem. And we're not gonna get these people to suddenly run NPX, you know, whatever we, you know, have here in the new code mod, if we couldn't get them to, you know, use the tool that they probably are already using to do the thing. So if we think that is something we would want to drive, we would need to take a slightly different approach. And it could, like, we could implement it via code mods, but we need something like a task force to go out to those and make standard pull requests. So like, there's a group that has been doing this for different reasons. I'm not necessarily a fan always of what they target, but the methodology is not bad, right? And so that's the EA2E group who's been doing like module updates. Again, I'm not gonna say I like all the ones that they target, but like, you know, the way they do it is actually pretty fine, right? It's like they have some automation. They find all the usage of the thing that they care about, and then they go and like, you know, have some people who go and open those PRs. So if we think that's important, whether it's code mods, which is if y'all want to do the code mods, great, but like what really is gonna move the needle here is having somebody who goes and drives the changes landing in these projects.
I would like to say that I don't know if that is like, I think doing that now is fine, and I think doing the code mod path is a way, like, we should try to lean into encouraging the ecosystem to take on this burden, and doing it with code mod, like, it allows us to do that, and like, we can show up in a few cases and do that. But I do think the ESLint rule, sure, that like is a thing. And I imagine that a lot of the new buffer is like older packages that just haven't pushed a new update or haven't cared. They've done security fixes. And like, I think the value of code mod, to me at least, compared to an ESLint rule, is it gives it like reduces it pushes it further left and reduces the barrier so much more than having to like go and edit code. It's basically delivering on what AI says it can do.
If it's code moddable, you can make it auto fixable, use Lintel too.
Sure.
And you try to bug fix.
But also that requires that you use ESLint. Yeah, sure, for sure, yeah. And I think like it's good to have the code mod, and I'm down for whatever additional tooling like ESLint too. But yeah, I think that like having it this, trying to find ways to push people to use these patterns and get used to this being what the product does and how to update, I think is a net benefit for us and maintenance of this long term.
I mean, if those had existed when we did those, like, I think we would have had probably a much better success, I agree.
Yeah.
But like going back, I mean, maybe it's just like, how much work is that one or anyone, like any of these that we would pick to do?
Yeah.
Gonna be worth, because you go do the tooling and the people who we need to reach,
they don't know the tooling exists, it's new, they're right, like, they might not have published in 10 years. And they're certainly not gonna do it just because the code mod exists, the only way they're gonna do it is, it's going to break. Like, the removal's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right, so like.
And then they have a code mod
And
to
then
fix
the
it.
code mod, again, I'm happy
Yeah.
that we would have the code mods, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's not a simple.
Yeah.
Oh, we build it and they will come type problem, right? Like, ESLint did build it and they didn't
Yeah.
come and they didn't update, right?
Yeah.
So if we think this matters, we need more than just the migrations team. We need like a whole big widespread messaging that says, the code mods are ready. Here is the list of things. Here are the packages you should target. Like, we can run these, scripts against the NPM packages and prioritize by download count and say, no, the Node project has published a list. If you're on it, you're bad. We're gonna break you. Here's the code mod to help. And then the ecosystem will like read the list and somebody will, get inspired to go open 300 PRs. I mean,
Would it be reasonable, since we have all the deprecations documented, every deprecation in Node, runtime deprecation at least, has to have a code, with it. If it does become a runtime deprecation, and if there is a code mod available that we know of, right, that Node just says, like, hey, yes, this is deprecated, be aware of it, go here to look for code mod, and just get it, make it available.
they
Make
said
it-
they
Well,
sorry.
currently, the errors include a link to the deprecations page. And then the code mod is listed there. We had floated the idea of specifically mentioning the fact that there is a code mod available in the deprecation message. But that doesn't cover all the things because like if the deprecation is added and then the code mod is created after the deprecation is added. So then let's say in node 2501, a deprecation is added, and then the code mod is created like 2 months later. It can't get added to the deprecation message in 2501.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't have it for subsequent ones, but it just won't cover all the cases.
I don't believe that's critical that it would be added. I definitely believe there is a big value in providing a link directly to the code mod, and like to we could even say there is potentially going to be a code mod if we believe that is the case or not, while creating a deprecation, And about ESLint complaining. So yeah, I agree that we have some tools that were able to rewrite some of the code before and fix things, and it was not used as much as we would have hoped for. Nevertheless, I believe there is one part here that's very interesting, and that's our mental model as humans. Well, a linker, for me personally, is in the first place not about fixing a code. So it's actually not a code mod tool in the first place, even though it is capable of doing that. And it is used for it partially. But it's more about like having a hygiene there for a notification standpoint. And a code mod is a very different thing. Like if someone sees that, it has way less effort that they need to use it, and it's not a constant thing they need to have in their code base, which is also different using ESLint versus a code mod. You run the code mod once and you're done, which is great. That's actually is something. It reduces the bar for usage significantly. And also the mental model is immediately, yeah, I can, run this and my code is good. Great. Like we should communicate that very, very strongly in the ecosystem out of my perspective. And I'm quite certain it would be picked up easier than a linting rule.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are great points. So yeah, I think I agree as well. Am I all right to make a slightly different comment? Or do you want more on that? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna hate myself for saying this, but if we think that this libraries using some of these things is blocking important progress, there's some pretty hacky things that we could probably do. If the code mods are that reliable, we could probably output like patch packages for backward, okay, I see Jordan over there going, please, God, no, right? Okay,
That
but,
would make the Node project somewhat responsible for maintaining other random, third-party.
okay, so what about working with like our partners like Hero Devs for these ones that are never gonna update and figure out if we can get patched versions of them, that we can find some way to get those ones that we've tried, we've submitted the PR, maybe the maintainer's MIA, whatever, and then get some avenue to then have the code mod suggest to the user, go from this, you know, like, again, I don't know exactly the mechanism we would need here, but if we're trying to do that, we could tackle it at the app layer, the
All
like.
these things are complementary, right? Like Ruben's points about the code mods, I completely agree, right? But the code mod is also a one shot. Someone can still add it tomorrow, right? They'll be bad matter. And so you still want the linter rule to prevent it, and you might as well have that linter rule be auto fixable. So you should do all of these things. And that's still not gonna be enough. You still need people to go champion things. And then if you figure out that there are packages that can't be updated, you figure out maybe if those dependencies can be replaced in other places, right? Or like, you know, even the things like the places where I'm using new buffer in my packages, I'm pretty sure in all of them that I know of, I'm checking for like the existence of buffer.from and using that when available, so that it doesn't trigger the deprecation message. Those are alternative techniques, even for people who have, you know, backward compatibility constraints, right? So like I don't think there's any single silver bullet here. I think there's just a lot of techniques that we should try to figure out ways to do all in parallel. And yeah, yeah.
Okay, agreed.
One of the problems, like, I think the problem of code mods in general, as it was mentioned by Wes and others, is we have deep, long dependency chains that are mostly dead, in the sense that a module is used by another module, it's like we're 5-level deep. And that particular version is being, like, we have multiple packages being maintained across the chain. Okay, and that is the problem we have. And we need, like, to some extent, once and when the code mod are ready, we must try to find a way to get those modules updated. And otherwise, these endeavor, okay, I'm not seeing a success. Okay, I see a partial success, but not it won't have the success we want. Like when we needed to update from the new buffer deprecation, we did massive research on the NPM registry to find what were the dependency change, how to bring all that update. And I think that needs to be part of this initiative for it to succeed.
I just want to add another thing that I thought Wes was about to say is, on a case by case basis, if there's some package that's widely used and for whatever reason, it cannot be updated, Node could also add that thing to core. Right, like all the complaints people have about, I don't know, like people complain about the dependency tree in QS, because I have to do something, I have to add a bunch of stuff to handle cycling, right? Put QS in core, and then, you know, as an example, hypothetical, and then like, nobody has to use it anymore, right? That sort of solves the problem. That's not gonna work for everything, but another unconventional option.
No, I think it's a very interesting idea, but are you trying to wrap the time? Okay, I'll be very quick. So with Express, this is like, literally comes up all the time. So we find these packages and we're like, we depend on this. And then we go over there and we're like, oh, it's Dad, like, what should we do? And so we've now transferred in two of them. We don't have the ability to maintain these well either. We're taking them over because they were fully dead. But just because we move it into core doesn't magically make it maintainable. And in some ways, like, it centralizes the problem, and then now, like, we're gonna run into this at some point with Express, where we're gonna be like, wow, we helped, get this thing back on its feet when it had 40 packages, and now we have 60, and we don't have any more maintainers, right? So like, it's not like a solution, it's just a slightly different way to structure the problem, right? Which I'm not sure it solves it.
The problem with dead package is governance. And
Right.
moving it into a managed place solves that problem. It does not magically create the maintenance expertise, but it unlocks the ability for anybody to show up, prove their knowledge and trustworthiness and reliability, and then solve it.
In a perfect world, I agree. We do not have, if this room, every time we got one of these together, had like an extra one or two new people, I would be on board. But it's not happening, right? And so like, whether we fix the governance or not, because again, we did that with Express, but like, we have had some great folks who might be on, some of them on the call, who like, have joined the group. But it's not like enough to get these things over the finish line, right? I mean, so no matter what we do about including it in core, it's like, this is a shifting the problem to Node in, which again, maybe is a little bit better, but it's not, we need something else too, right?
Okay, yeah, we need to wrap the conversation up. We'll give it, Jacob, do you wanna closing note, next items here?
No, that's it. Thank you, everyone. I wrote down all of your suggestions and stuff. Super great input. Thank you. That's it.
Awesome. Here. Okay, so now we'll go for a break. I'll try something here to see if I can improve the image of the camera. We have.
I was just posting in here, I think people who want to maybe should join and use their own video.
Oh, but
right,
we may have Wi-Fi. We may get into Wi-Fi problems if we start doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I got warned from the foundation folks. Yeah.
The video from the webcam is great. It's just that this is now blurring for some reason.
It won't focus for some reason. It's really annoying.
No,
Like,
so,
it's deeply bothering me.
I got told that I should try to install app from there directly to my desktop.
Interesting.
Might help improve. But I might.
There's no setting for it.
Yeah, I might have to restart the Zoom call though.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
If
It's fine.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
If the Zoom call ends for any reason, keep an eye on the issue. I'll update it again with a new link. I'll do that for the afternoon for sure.
Okay.
But I might have to do it for right now just to see if that.
Yeah.
And just keep in mind, we're using the same Wi-Fi as the conference going on actively.
Yeah.
So
No, I don't think so. It's not the same. Hello, hello. We should be back. Can you hear us? People from the Zoom call? Yeah, Brian, thank you. Okay, so right. So this next session is Raphael, who's going to be talking about the change in the release schedule. Raphael, are you all set? I see you have your camera closed. Maybe you need a bit more time, I don't know. Is they muted? Yeah, you're muted.
Why does it always focus on me for some reason?
Yeah,
It's always on me. But it's supposed to be smart and turn me off when I'm not talking.
The more you talk, the more it thinks you're recording. We both have that problem where.
Hey, Rafa. Where are you? I'll try to exit.
I've pinged him on Slack in case that helps.
Guess I'll just start chanting his name until.
Well, I think Antoine might be the second person most engaged in that conversation. If you want, Antoine, maybe start an intro or something while we wait for Rafael to come back. But you're also muted, so
He may have it.
you're trying to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not prepared, but sure I can. We can try that. Let me see.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Okay. Awesome. Yes, if you want to take over, go ahead.
Okay. Can you all hear me well?
Yep.
Okay. I'll give you an introduction, then Antoine will discuss about the proposals. So I'm going to share in the chat of Slack the proposals that were created with Antoine and adding some comments from me and also Richard. Well, I believe that most of you know what we have been discussing for the last 3 or 4 months. It was initially introduced by Mateo in one issue about if we should shift or change the release schedule. I'll give you just a summary because it's a long context, so I don't want to spend much time on overview, but discussing the proposals. So I took some notes to discuss it here. Just a second. Okay. So the current status of the release cycle is that we have the current release duration is 6 months. The active duration for even numbered releases is 12 months. For odd numbered releases, 0 months. We don't have that for active. Maintenance for odd numbered releases is 3 months, and for even LTS line is 18 months. So the total lifespan from start of beta until the end of maintenance for even numbered release is 36 months, and for odd is 9 months. If you go to the proposal or the pull request I sent in the chat, there's a README where you can open the file, and there's an image. I think Antoine is sharing maybe the README. And our feedback from releasers, this is my personal opinion, but I believe I share the same view as other releasers, is that the current release cadence of 2 majors per year is it's a bit hard to maintain mostly because most of us are volunteers and we don't have many releasers, to be honest. We always struggle with people finding people to do mainly the maintenance releases or LTS releases, because they tend to be more complicated due to conflicts. And reducing to one major per year would lower the number of active release lines, and it will make backporting is like easier. And especially, and speaking from the security side, security releases would be much simpler if we have a few release lines to coordinate. At some point, we have 5 or actually 4 release lines in actives, and this makes security release very difficult, because even we create a patch that would apply to main, we will need to find a way to backport that to the maintenance release line, and depending on the security patch, this is extremely difficult. So I think that's the overview. We don't need to discuss much about the current problem. It's more about maintenance. I believe that for users, the problem is that most of users don't use the odd numbered releases. As described by Matteo, they simply don't use that. And a lot of users are stuck on end-of-life release lines. It might be because of a lot of releases. We are doing two majors per year, and it's very hard for them to keep track of it. They don't read change logs, as most of you know. They don't have time for that, or they don't have the willing to read the change log. So and I feel that if we reduce the amount of majors, it might be easier for them to upgrade or not. I don't know. It's still just my guess. Okay. I will hand that to Antoine now.
Well, before that, I just want to point out one thing. The current schedule is 10 years old. It was done to balance the needs coming out of the merger from IOGS back to Node. Balancing into the ecosystem and businesses. So it's like, it's 10 years old. Let's keep that in mind. It may no longer fit the actual needs.
It was also a guess of what enterprises would need in like an attempt to give stability. And I think we have 10 years of data now telling us what that need actually is.
Yeah, Antoine, you muted if you're trying to speak.
Yeah, can you?
There.
Okay, I'm gonna use Jacob's microphone because otherwise it doesn't work. So the different proposal that came during the discussions on the release repo. So there's one where we would have one LTS every year, so as we have currently, except we no longer have non-LTS release. Instead, we would have alpha duration and alpha release. So for example, for Node 27, we would, as soon as Node 26 turns LTS, we can release alpha version on Node 27. Alpha version, we try to find a definition of this. It would be we would allow simple major changes as long as it's not ecosystem breaking, and we hold off from upgrading V8 until we reach the beta period. So right before we release the actual version, so the ABI can be stable. Yeah, you can look on the markdown for more information. I don't think we need to go too much in details. There's one to just have the same life cycle except longer. So old releases would now, instead of lasting 6 months currently, it would last 12 months, and the active period will also double, and the maintenance as well. So we just have not as fewer releases. So okay, another one, another proposal would have to be have one LTS every 2 years. So instead of having old versions or non-LTS even or LTS, you have only how do you call it? Like when it's multiple of 4, yeah, it's LTS. Otherwise, it's dies after 6 months. Then yeah, another proposal would be to just get rid of the active period. We just go straight from current to maintenance. And so every versions are LTS. Okay, and the last one would be bump the server major every 6 weeks or so, and Jesus. And yeah, we still have one LTS version per year. That we like whichever version is current on during October, we set it as LTS, and we maintain it for same time. And yeah, the idea behind this proposal would be to make releasing new server major easier, of course. Otherwise, it's more work.
One thing that before taking any action here is that I forgot to mention some enterprise or users feedback in general that we might take in consideration before choosing one, or if we are going to choose one. Okay. Current release lines are generally ignored, as I have mentioned, including even numbered releases. So people are enterprise in general, they will always use LTS. So regardless if we are releasing Node.js 25 now, or if we say 25 is stable, unless we say, okay, it's LTS, they are not going to use that. There is a general preference to extend the LTS support window. Currently we have 30 months, and people, they didn't like the supposition or the idea of reducing the LTS support. So they prefer to make it a high number. And this is usually as a trade-off. If we increase the LTS support time, it also increase the maintenance for the releasers. So we need to put that in a balance. And we need to have a predictable cadence for forward planning. A lot of companies, they plan the Node.js upgrades a year or 2 years before they release. So we need to have a calendar, we need to have a schedule, and we need to follow that strictly because this is very important for them. They also want the LTS support window to overlap from the migration to another LTS release line. So normally they go from Node.js 22 to Node.js 24. They don't care about 23. So and that's the point. And also Richard sent the dependency life cycles, which is very relevant. So if we want to stick to the OpenSSL policy, which might sense for us, that would be interesting as well. So I will leave that to Richard.
Yeah, do you want me to say a few words? Okay, so just briefly, the stuff in here about enterprise feedback, just a caveat here, that is basically me talking to teams that, you know, I'm speaking to, which is basically IBM teams and Red Hat teams and their customers. So I'm not saying this is completely representative of like the entire ecosystem, but it is it's a section of people using Node. So I'm not saying exactly that, this is what we should do, but this is the feedback that I got from talking to people using Node or trying to ship Node on the platforms that IBM support. The specific thing about longer LTS support windows, that's mainly teams comparing Node to other things being things like OpenSSL itself. Java gets mentioned a lot because they're enterprise customers, Java. So we got to balance what we can actually do with people want things, and in an ideal world they get what, everyone would like longer support cycles, but we've got to balance that with what we can actually do. In terms of the dependencies, someone mentioned in one of the discussions, we've got quite a few issues that were open for this about, so for some background, in the past, we had to cut Node 16's expected support window short to align with the end of support for OpenSSL 1.1.1, because we just felt that the project was not able to, maintain the difference between the end of support for upstream OpenSSL and, maintaining security patches in OpenSSL ourselves. We just didn't have the capacity in the team or the experience or whatever have you. We're not able to maintain OpenSSL ourselves. The good news is that OpenSSL has actually revised their LTS policy this year. So when we switched OpenSSL 3.0, that was marked as an LTS release, and they had a very vague statement about, oh, this should last 5 years, and then a year before it goes out of support, we'll come up with like whatever the next LTS is, which meant that we went out, Node.js 22 went out on OpenSSL 3, but we were aware that OpenSSL 3 would go end of life before Node.js 22. But we were hopeful that we could go to another OpenSSL version without it being the major break that OpenSSL 1.1.1 to OpenSSL 3 was. It turned out in the end that we have actually upgraded Node.js 22 now to OpenSSL 3.5. It's been reasonably painless, but there were some edge cases that were found. So it's not completely frictionless. But yeah, hopefully going forwards so the new OpenSSL policy is better now. So assuming they stick to this, OpenSSL are now going to do a new LTS version every 2 years. So the next one will be is planned for 2027. And they are saying that each LTS version will be supported for 5 years. So, depending on what we decide to do, but, if we kept the current LTS idea that, we support things for 30 months, we can probably find a version of OpenSSL that will be supported for the duration of that long. So I actually think for OpenSSL, which has been one of the main drivers of our support life cycles, that we're actually in a much better place today than we were even a year ago. It remains to be seen what happens when they actually bump to say OpenSSL 4, but given that their LTS versions should last 5 years, as long as we don't start drastically extending our support life cycles, we should fit into a 5-year window of some description somewhere along the lines. The interesting thing about this table is, so first of all, it's not exhaustive. So we have many, many, many more dependencies that are on that table. Quite a few of them are maintained by collaborators or friends of collaborators. I think the general pattern is most of our dependencies do not have, or either do not state or explicitly state they do not have long-term support policies, which feeds into the whole security patching discussion. Some dependencies have historically had more need to be patched for security than others. So I'm looking at, for example, I think we had 1 or 2 in zlib. Sierras has had a few, but not as many as, say, for example, OpenSSL. So based on the sort of historical data, V8, for example, V8 does not follow Semver, and we've never been able to easily update a V8 version in a version of Node. So more or less every V8 update in Node is being treated as Semver major. The actual V8 ABI, so even though we've got Node API now that we ask add-ons to write to, the V8 ABI is still exposed in the Node header package. So, we treat breaking changes in V8 as breaking changes in Node, which is the thing. But there isn't actually a thing that we can go to in V8 that would actually change that. So I see quite a few hands are up. Who was first? Wes?
Yeah, just before that, I put a link in the chat and I think on Slack as well. If you want to vote on which proposal to discuss first, at least not what which one we should necessarily adopt, but just if we want to steer the discussion.
Can you repost it, because folks who joined after you had, like, I can't find it, because I think I rejoined the call after you had sent it.
Sure.
I think it was in the chat in the Zoom, right?
Yeah, but it's also in
Zoom and on
Oh.
Slack. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I raised my hand just to give a little bit of backing to what Raphael and Richard said. The stuff that y'all listed there absolutely matters to us. I think the overlap, the comment was one that particularly stood out to me. Being able to go straight from what we're on to what you want to be on without it being a gap is definitely important. And these migrations, like for us, we're working toward a more standard LTS support schedule that is based off of nodes. But it is, if I'm remembering correctly, and I had gotten my work laptop out to try to find it and I couldn't at the moment, but I think it's a 6-month migration window that we're shooting for. So if we could, that's how long it will take us, like whether we push or not in most cases. So having 6 months of overlap between the LTSs feels to me like the right amount, and we should probably think about these sort of like minimum and maximum numbers and try to make sure whatever proposal lands fits within some reasonable migration timeline where somebody's not having to go to a unsupported or, through a phase of lack of support. Especially for these bigger orgs, like I'm sure IBM, for example, probably has a similarly of 6 month, if not longer. I mean, that's the thing. Honestly, if you could say a year, would be wonderful, but I know that's like not, reasonable. Right? But like these things they're slow moving. Some of them are very slow moving ships, and so thinking about that from like make sure there's never a gap in a secure option is like very important for the migration story here.
So a couple things here. You're talking about like IBM has some long-term support contracts that are measured in decades, not months. So maybe just give it a scale difference there. Based on all the conversation that we've had over the past months and this, it is clear we have 3 very distinct audiences here that we need to focus on. Like, the users need LTS, right? So like any plan that eliminates LTS, I think is a non-starter. Just off the bat, there has to be an LTS plan. The module developers, that ecosystem of developers, that's who the currents were designed for. That they need that rolling, like, pulling the V8 updates quickly, pulling these new features quickly so that they can build the modules that those users are going to use when it rolls into LTS. And then there's us, right? And backporting and like the maintenance burden of this thing. We have to keep those 3 in mind and don't over index on any one of those and say, oh, well, we need to make it easier for our releasers, so let's do something easier for them. And we screw everybody else over. Right, so it's very important that as we're going through this, we are focusing on, does this meet the needs of all 3 of these groups?
Does the download data for the current releases support that theory though?
So I guess the interesting thing about the download data is we expect the current releases to not be used as much as the LTS releases, because we tell people that if you're going to deploy an application on Node, you should use a supported long-term support version. So, current is there for module authors, but it's not a surprise to me to look at download numbers and find that current is not downloaded as much as a long-term support release. But I don't know, what is the proportion that you would look at it and say, that's a problem. I don't think it's correct to say nobody is using current, but it is much less people are using current than long-term support. But that's probably by design. You know, we want people to be on long-term support releases if they are running something critical or deploying something, or you know, want something that actually they want the support for. And then the current releases, like James has said, are there for the module authors or for developers that actually have the luxury of being able to look at the next version of Node.
My current the current problem in my opinion is that although I understand that we release the current or the odd numbered releases just for to make the development of Node.js easier, so we can land a server major twice per year, and it makes the development faster. I feel that it adds more maintenance for releasers, but also it's very confusing for users. For anyone that joins to the Node.js for the first time, they will need to understand that, okay, I will never use the odd numbered releases. I need to stick to the even ones. And why? They don't understand. They just are assuming that. I feel that if we increase the window between one release and another, which is one releaser per year, that would make this distinction easier or welcome for new users to Node.js. And although a major release will be way more difficult than it is nowadays, we just need to do that once.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe just complement and continue from where James dropped. Like I do think that the current model needs to over-index a little bit more on the maintenance health status of this, right? Like on the releaser side of things, because it is very demanding. I think it is the main problem, right? Because it is the whole reason we're discussing this, right? And it seems to be something that works quite well for the enterprise today. So we need to kind of try to keep the balance. Yes, but I do think the major change that needs here is that it needs to be more manageable to the.
Without a doubt, and I'm saying this as, I did the major releases by myself for, 5 years, and then Beth took them over, and, so I know firsthand, it's very, very demanding, very, very hard.
It's probably less worse today than it was back then.
Yeah, well, the back pressure burden, the backporting burden and these kind of things make it quite difficult. But we can't lose sight of what the users need, and we can't put, we can't put any one group's needs in front of. These are equal, these are equally important. We have to maintain the health of the project and the contributors, just as much as we need to, watch out for users and that kind of thing. What I want to say, is like some of these proposals, like the more frequent, majors and these kind of things. You look at that graph and it's like, oh, that's scary, and it's like there's a lot here. But if you look at it from the point of view of, wow, that's a lot more burden, let's not do that. That's a knee-jerk reaction. Most of that can be automated. And if we do automate it, if we do fall back on that automation, then it does relieve that burden.
Yes, exactly.
Significantly on the maintain.
Yeah.
So we need to think about it in those terms. Like I think a lot of the discussion so far has been looking at it from the point of view of, oh, that's a lot more work I have to do. And I think that's looking at it from the wrong point of view. I think it's yes, we might be able to go to these like radically different cycles and rely on newer, better tooling that we have today that we did not have 10 years ago, or we didn't even have like a couple of years ago, to really reduce this burden for for the releases.
So, just to voice my point of view. From my personal point of view, I'm just kind of afraid of running into a situation. We're kind of running already into a situation where it's kind of Rafa is being the hero. He's taking care of all the the LTS releases, the major releases. We don't want to be in that place, right? We want to have a system
that burnt me out. It burnt Beth out.
Yeah, right?
Raphael is also getting paid from Alpha Omega.
Right.
To do this, and so
Right.
we can't get the project into a situation where we're acting like a enterprise
Right.
company to support enterprise companies.
Right. So, yes, so, yeah, you're just saying, right, like you bet before, right, like and I'm sitting there just trying to keep the group together and, you know, sometimes I'm just like, okay. It's been hard to find people to just cut current releases, right? So,
One thing important is that releasing a current release of Node.js is way easier than it was 1 year ago or 2 years ago, because we did an awesome automation that we can create the proposal by just having the correct commits on staging, and we can promote just using a single line command and following some really basic steps. So it's been very way easier than it was 1 year ago. However, it doesn't change. The point here is that it's not only maintenance issue. It's also I feel that it's bad from users' experience. For instance, we have released Node.js 25. I have received some comments on the post of 25 release that they say, oh, why are you doing a lot of noise with this 25 release, because it doesn't include anything meaningful. They just don't understand that we have a schedule and major release are usually the boring release ever, because they only include breaking chains, runtime deprecation, and things like that. But I feel that we should also listen to the users that if you look to all major release we land and you look to the comments, either on LinkedIn or X, a lot of people are saying, oh my God, I'm still using Node.js 14. I'm still using Node.js 20, and then you are almost on Node.js 30. So I feel that this is a problem, also their problem, but it's also point us that we are doing a lot of releases, and maybe we need to think about reducing a bit the release cycle. It doesn't mean we are not including new features. It just means that we are not including a lot of server majors nowadays, because server minor still goes to a line, right?
An alternative way of looking at it, it's not necessarily that we're doing too many releases, but maybe we've defined release in the wrong way, right? The version number doesn't really matter, right? And I mean, this was the point of Semver original, right? I mean, it's just a signal. It doesn't need to be what we go out and announce on. It doesn't need to be that, hey, we released Node 25, right? It could be we released Node 2025. It, you know, could be released Node 2026. And the actual major version number in there is less important, right? You know, we could roll those throughout the year and have this different definition, and that's what we index the marketing, you know, message on. Like, what's new in Node 2025? Mateo had his hand up first.
Yes, there is. Okay, we are forgetting two things here. Okay, first of all, we have ABI guarantee on every Semver major that we do, and those are related to Node.js to the V8 version. Okay, so this is a problem because as much as everybody would love that not existing anymore, we have a significant fraction of the community still relying on NAT and still relying on native add-ons that use directly the V8 API without passing through an API. So I'm mentioning this is a massive problem for the system, okay? Because in fact, you know, those modules are what are, I'm saying it out loud, okay? Preventing us from shipping API breaking changes in Node.js minors, okay? I'm putting it out loud because it's a design choice, okay? This is a design choice, okay? Our design choice is we don't want to break native add-ons because they rely on the V8 API. However, a long time ago at this point, thanks to the guys from Microsoft and IBM, we got the Node API initiative going and the neutral runtime integration thing. Okay, now that is we need to consider that. Okay, we need to consider, this is also for the, if you want, for a userland migration group. How can we get the remaining top, 9 module to switch to, an API? Okay, C++, okay, but again, I'm putting this out loud because it's, we cannot reduce. If we don't ship new V8 versions, we cannot reduce the LTS cycle for more than 1 year.
Yeah, well, we can advance doing this information, like this idea of just decoupling like the release from the major. And still preserve that. It would just mean that maybe the V8 API, like V8 is not updated over several majors, right? Like we instead of updating it every major, right? It still only happens once a year or so twice a year, and we can still preserve that. What it means is that that ABI guarantee goes over several majors rather than just a single major.
Oh, James, try to speak to the. The right people are in.
Yeah, so talking kind of from the more like corporate non-enterprise perspective, so other tech companies, things like that, like I think the signal on versions is always really important, but like there's only a couple of things that like I've seen pretty consistently that like effort teams, platform teams, things like that care about, and then it's pretty much like what's the cost of the upgrade, right? So this is it something I could just run my CI, it's green, cool, ship it? Or is this, we need to do an initiative to like do regression testing and things like that? So it's basically major, minor, like I don't think people really care about the patch, but like the signal, what that means for to kind of like Mateo's point, it's, is this gonna be like a lot of effort and we need to like schedule this into quarters and like do resourcing plans and all that around it? Or is this just kind of like a daily cost of operation? Like, I think that's really important. And the version numbers are important that, and I think what I've seen, this may be not quite as consistent in opinion, but like people tend to only upgrade in the corporate world, like once that deadline is coming, like they're pretty deadline driven on this, like once they're forced to. And so like, in a way, I think like having the very long overlapping LTS actually hasn't helped because people are pretty much always lagging on the oldest one anyways. So it doesn't really matter to most people that there is that long overlap because they're just waiting to the next deadline anyways.
And typically they'll wait till it'll either be third quarter or first quarter period, like that's when they go. Like,
So I agree with quite a bit of that, other than the overlap does matter for us. So I think there's probably but that's fine. There's gonna be different approaches.
So overlap, just LTS, you don't need to.
Oh, yes,
like
overlap,
active.
specifically LTS, yeah.
having-
We're skipping the odds as well, right? So like that holds true, I think. But I think what I'm to like this line of discussion is actually very important. Because what will happen, say we do this where we decouple the what we call it, sorry, just from what we ship, is that then we're going to have, so we do like support threads with, users, and we're helping them do this upgrade. And the first thing we always ask is what node, version are you on, right? And they're gonna say, I'm on node 2025, right? And then we're gonna say, can you go find the actual major? Right, because that's what matters, so they're gonna, because that's the debugging is based on which very specific, line are you on, so I can go look at the change, for that, and see if like maybe just bumping you up to, the next minor would have fixed your thing, or maybe going to the next major is what you need to do, right? And so we would then have this complicated exchange where we'd probably make those users more confused. Cause they'd be like, wait a sec, I read the blog post. It said, I'm on node 2025. Why do you care that I'm on actually node, 36, whatever. But it's because like the real world is that we care about the December major and the API compatibility when we're having those discussions. And so if we decouple that, like TypeScript, for example, I think is a great example of how painful not following a standard Semver whatever, like whatever you want to define it as. I know December's not perfect, nothing is, but like TypeScript as a whole ecosystem has had to evolve the way they think about their libraries because of the bad decision to not follow Semver, right? And that has changed the way the ecosystem, they have to follow latest because there's no guarantee that anything's ever gonna freaking work if they're not on latest for like everything.
Fair.
And that sucks, so we don't wanna
Absolutely
introduce that world, right?
Absolutely fair. 2 points on that. We already have that problem.
Like, people say, yeah, I'm on LTS, like, okay, what version of LTS? Because we do minor updates and patch updates of LTS, so.
Sure, but
we
that's
already
an
have that
easy, just,
to a
you,
degree.
you know exactly where you can bump to without any real thinking, because Semver allows us to have a common model around that. And if we decouple that, we could lose that, or at least make it way more complicated.
To a degree. We also though do have tools built in, that when you set the REPL, it prints the version. When you do, call report, it prints the version. So there are ways, fairly easy ways to get that information. Now, that conversation of, okay, you have to upgrade, right? To get to this part of the thing, absolutely agree with you. It does add some additional layer of confusion. So I mean, that's absolutely fair comment. I'm just saying, I think that I don't think it's too different than what we already have.
I think I can buy some of that, but I think it's a complicated one, and it's the kind where like, it's really about how are the humans gonna solve the problems in their apps, right? And I'm not sure we can know necessarily based on, what we're discussing here, how that's gonna play out if we go that route. I mean, the closest I can think of is TypeScript, and it has not played out well. Right, so.
I really do want to second that and get a little more concrete on just things I've seen with TypeScript and how that's been a problem. Is and companies will have, just some developer who's upgrading some random dependency, but because of things, they'll bump from just a minor version on TypeScript, and all of a sudden the entire code base is broken for something they did unrelated. But it's about expectation setting and but also the way the tooling works. Package JSON with a caret in it. It kind of means something.
You're right. Okay, with all these considerations, we want to go through the concrete proposals here, see if they fit, where are they problematic, good in certain of these aspects, right?
Just time check, how much do we have left on this paper?
I think we have an hour.
An hour?
Yeah. So, yeah, Rafael, Antoine, I don't know who wants to, but we could kind of start going through them and maybe show also the render of the graph at the same time as we discuss these, so that we know which one we're talking about.
I think by the vote, the one is first is LTS every year with alpha and beta.
Yeah, we could start with that, yeah.
One thing from this proposal is that I don't know if that solves the maintenance problem, because at some point we still have 4 lines that we will need to do security patches, right?
Right. So not good. Next.
According to the
alpha beta in this proposal.
definition of alpha and beta, we don't have to make security releases for alpha and beta, so that would be only 3.
Okay.
But I mean, if I see the 90s is alphas already, is why I'm asking.
But alpha at some point will be active, right? So we need to land the security patches.
We need to land them on main anyway, so.
But I guess that's my question: is what are the reasons why proposal 1 is what it is versus just being a new major every year with associated LTS lifecycle?
So this
is that a different one?
I think the idea of alpha and beta, it was to make development easier, so we don't need to wait 12 months to land Semver major to main. And also I believe, if I remember correctly, it will also make the landing V8 patches easier, because we could land, for instance, V8 2014 and V8 15 in the alpha and beta. We could test that technically, and people will still getting that update. This is what I remember from that discussion.
Would we not get the same benefit from just having main be unreleased for a year? As soon as you release version 26, main is version 27 for the whole year, and then you can land whatever you want.
These are the night builds, right?
Oh, so that's
We
the
basically do.
I guess the wording is confusing me. No active LTS anymore tells me there's
Yeah, 'cause
no.
no active LTS
Maintenance
is
of-
when you only get commits from the current release line. So if you remove the alphas and betas from this one, there would be no active, like it doesn't make sense, right?
So the difference between
Active.
active and maintenance, active is getting backports, they're getting,
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
maintenance
yeah.
is
Just the curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, but I don't know why, I'm still not clear on why alpha and beta is necessary when, like, in order to preserve the ability to still backport stuff, because backports are really important, right? Like every time we add a new feature that it is, like, if we only added it to the latest major, then we've delayed broad adoption by like half a decade. When we backport it aggressively, then we shorten that time span significantly.
or we create incentives to upgrade more frequently.
But that's in practice, that doesn't work. Like backports allow us, like backports pave the cow path for user behavior. Now, yes, certainly if we can change user behavior, awesome, but I have not yet seen any software able to do that. So at least intentionally. So, but yeah, I guess like I'm still wondering, like, why can't we have one major a year? We still do backports. It still goes into maintenance mode. And the main branch is just the unreleased next year's major for 12 months. Like, is there a downside I'm missing from that is handled in other options?
But we will do, for instance, if we do one release per year, this version will be LTS, or we will do LTS every other year.
Every year would be a new LTS would not start immediately, obviously, but it would like enter LTS at some point. I guess it could start immediately, I don't know, but it enters LTS at some point, and then it has an active period, and then you could argue when the next major comes out, it drops into maintenance, and then
So
something
every
like
release is
that.
LTS.
What's
So
that?
every release is LTS.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
the
just
problem is that
pretend that the odd numbers don't exist, and then renumber everything.
I believe that the problem is that if you try to match the calendar of at least 30 months of LTS line, we will have more than 3 or 2 active LTS lines. So it will increase the maintenance, because LTS needs the baking time, and back importing is much harder for LTS lines. So I believe that at some point we will have 4 active release lines if we do LTS every year without reducing the LTS time.
Thank you, that clarifies.
Yes.
Another thing is if we release a main every year, it would increase the pressure to get the breaking change landed on time. Because currently it's for when LTS is around, there's already some pressure we feel as to get breaking changes. If it was every year, it would be bigger.
Right.
Can I respond to that real quick? I think it will maybe ease it, because sometimes features take a couple months, say like 3 months to do. And so that makes the current window of 6 months, if you are not basically within the first like 2 or 3 months of that, then you have this like crazy rush to get it in. Otherwise, it's going to sit there for a long time. But with a year-long release cycle, I think the chances of you getting it in for the major are much better. So I think it will actually help with this problem.
You got Richard and Kylie, hands up.
I was just going to sort of expand a bit on what Michael Zasser put in the chat, which is the current release policy. We don't land backports directly on LTS. We rely on them going out in a current release first, and then hope that the ecosystem, some part of the ecosystem checks that nothing is slipped through all of our testing. And we have had issues where we put something out in current, and some people report regressions, breakages. So there is an acceptance within the release working group that, you know, the tests don't catch everything. And I think part of the whole alpha beta discussion was, if we start changing the release cycle and we don't have the current releases, or the current releases are, you know, not around for as long, where are we actually testing changes to Node in the field before they land on LTS? Or do you then take the risk that you just land something directly on LTS and, you know, have to deal with the fallout then, which, you know, we're actually saying to people, you can run very critical stuff on LTS. That might, you know, be a discussion worth having, which is the actual risk there in terms of landing stuff there.
Yeah, I just wanted to zoom out for just a second, because I think from a marketing perspective, a social media perspective, people are confused, you guys. I think there's often too much going on for people to keep up. So obviously from my zoomed out perspective, the more we can simplify, the better. I think in our little community world here, like, you guys can do whatever on the back end, but I think from a visibility purpose, I think we need to really simplify it for the external folks, because we get comments on all of our socials saying, oh, I'm just on, you know, whatever version, or I didn't even know that this, you know, this is what I was supposed to do, which obviously is a larger problem that we're, you know, addressing in other ways. But I just want to throw that out there, that the more we can simplify externally, I think that that's really going to help in general, because people can't keep up.
And building on that, yeah, I completely agree. You know, I have lots of conversations, like, I'm constantly clarifying, like, no, here's how Node's release cycle works. Most people are like, just give me LTS, that's all I care about. But then they also hear like, oh, Node 24 was released in April, that's LTS, right? And it's really, and it's these odd versions, they almost view it as like it's LTS or it's beta, which isn't really accurate either. I've seen a ton of confusion out there.
And this really gets to why, this really gets to why, like the simplification, as long as we're talking about numbers, like version, like 20, you know, this, this problem where, well, the major doesn't really have anything, all the, you know, here. Where should I be? One part of the conversation, the part that Kylie, you know, is dealing with, like, eliminate that part of the complexity, right? On that messaging, and say, this is what was delivered in Node over this year.
I think some of these proposals tackle it as well.
Yeah,
Much more simpler.
And I was talking with Brian earlier about, like, it might be really cool to have an interface on the website where you can put two version numbers, and it just gives you all the notable changes that span that thing. Because for that exact reason, because every time, like, if I'm, because unless you're upgrading precisely one release gap, you have to read a bunch of change logs, and most people don't do that.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. Well, this is just a quick thing, so we don't move too far away. Is there any way we could, like, start bringing those things you're seeing on the socials, like, into some sort of way where we could, like, try to do some pattern matching and see if there's like a common thing? Like, do you have like a way to give these to us somehow? I don't know, like.
I could look into it for sure. I think more often than not, something gets commented.
Which is great. That's the thing. This is the signal, right? Like, it's feedback, and we see this deep conversation we're having here, and those people they're not gonna be making that comment in the GitHub issue.
Yeah.
Well, if they do, it's gonna actually look more like spam, but on, you know, Twitter or whatever, like, that's what I want to figure out how to get that closer to us, right?
Even timing, when you release something on a Saturday night, that's just confusing.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh my God, is that like urgent?
Yeah.
Like, we don't understand, like.
So yeah, I think being extremely intentional with when, what, how is really important. Like I said, in our little group here, I don't really care what you do, you know, like if you guys want to do little releases here and there, like, that's fine. And if you wanna do things on GitHub and, you know, talk about it there, I think that's fine. I think we really need to focus on the external piece of it because you're confusing the hell out of everyone, right?
Well, I care because I want you to think about if we didn't have a paid resource, what would that look like? Do we need to create paying for enterprise customers? Probably, yeah, because they're not contributing financially or whatever, so cry me a river.
I like that perspective, yeah.
I need you to come join our meetings, yeah.
And we also have to keep in mind, I mean, there is a fourth audience here that, you know, some Node contributors care, others do not. We have other runtimes that are also trying to keep up, you know, fun workers. It creates an additional burden for us to, like for me, I do not want to accidentally do something in workers that prevents Node from moving forward by keeping like things that are deprecated or things that are updated, like keeping them around too long. And it's actually quite difficult for us to follow the release cycle, just like the regular end user is. And having something that is more of a fixed in time, like this is what was done during this period, and that's what we're aligned to, makes it a hell of a lot easier for the rest of us.
I'm trying to be more intentional, so.
Yeah.
Way they release.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think we moved a little bit beyond the conversation, but I was gonna plus one the idea of LTS meaning a number of things. There's actually some PR still floating around between like current LTS and active LTS, like that means nothing to my users, and it is very confusing and probably adds to like the overall noise. And like, I deeply understand why it matters to module developers, us, but like, if I had to choose, I would want the people in this room and on the, you know, on the Node team to have to juggle the complexity and having to figure out how it all gets made and not put that onto the shoulders of users who are busy. And like, then like Robin made a good point about like, the kind of undercut, like we should take on the goals, you know, all the work, because we do want other people to care and have to like follow along with what we're doing. But in like a more enterprisey traditional product model, you know, like we should make that complexity opaque to our end users and make it easier for them, so.
And you can absolutely 100% blame me for the confusion on that. I'm the one that came up with the active and maintenance, that differentiation. If I went back, if you go back in time to do it all again, I would have, you know, kicked myself and told me to go sit down and shut up. For coming up with that. So I think from day one, it is added to the confusion and just caused more problems than it was worth.
And I misunderstood one of the initial proposals, like someone had said like no active LTS, I thought that meant like no LTS, but yeah, like that one seems somewhat more compelling just because it does communicate an overall simplification. I don't know what it does to the number of lines that we're dealing with, which is definitely something to keep in balance too, but.
In that proposal, it says maintenance, I would just say, you know, just call it LTS period, it's just LTS.
So also, this is kind of an interesting thing though, we're talking about like these, you know, looking at the pictures and misunderstanding them.
Yeah.
The users look at these pictures very much and have no clue. Right? So like, if we could just make these bars mostly one color, because we simplified it, like honestly, I bet you that would go a lot further than we would give it credit for. I know it seems silly, but like,
But
it
honestly,
will matter.
The proposal that has, well, the monocolor proposal, which is just, you know, LTS and going to maintenance, it might be it, right? It might be a great sign. Yeah, it's just that one.
Two
very
colors,
boring one.
yay, two colors.
I think that's a good
On
signal.
social channels, you guys, it would probably break the whole internet. Not understand, so, yes.
Yes, that's not, I'm just, one thing, I'm getting worried with distract ourselves too much. Let's just try to go, because Raphael and Antoine put some time into putting these 5 concrete proposals. Let's try to just, you know, grill them. And please take notes, Antoine, Raphael. And let's try to, you know, just make sure we at least went through these 5 proposals. We tried to poke holes on them. We found the good sides, aspects about them. And then at the end, we could brainstorm more, but I don't want to run out of time, right, like in the process. So, yeah, please, Rafael, Antoine, if you can just take back.
Ruben's had.
Oh, yeah, that's Ruben, yes. And then, one Rafael, please. Go ahead.
Like just by listening in, I try to summarize pretty much the last part of the discussion. And as far as I hear everyone, actually we have one major concern, and that is we have different types of LTS. And I believe actually if it all boils down, like if we just don't communicate, like even it doesn't really matter how we internally handle what we define as LTS, how we do the backports, but from outside communication, we just have LTS. That's it. There is no active, there is no other thing. We define what we effectively backport. That's it. That's up to our releases. And I believe when we do that, we have already solved 2/3 of the problem.
Yeah.
So a long time, well, a couple of years ago, we tried very hard not to put the active word out to the public communication. It was mainly there for the working group to work out at what point do we just stop backporting features into an LTS line. And it was a more it was meant to be an I mean, so I know these graphs are on the public website, but this whole visualization thing was mainly for the release working group to work. and probably that's, you know, indicative of like you just don't expose things directly to the public. But yeah, I think the balance between, you know, there is confusion in the wider world about what long-term support means, and a lot of people that I've spoken to have assumed that it actually meant that features would not be backported to the LTS lines, and the fact that we are doing that, you know, is a surprise to some people. Normally, people that get surprised by changing behavior or something. But then to balance that, you know, if we don't have backports of features to LTS, you get the whole complaint about the time it takes for the ecosystem to be able to adopt a new feature in Node, because they work on the basis that until something is in the earliest still in support, long-term support version, that, you know, they're not even going to consider adding it to libraries, or it's too complicated to add to libraries. I don't know if, you know, that is something that would block us changing what we define maintenance as, or sorry, long-term support as. But yeah, I do agree that there is confusion over the term. But yeah.
Yeah, so why do we even define it? It's up to the release group. Like in this case, everyone who does a release can decide what we backport. Why don't we just handle it like that? Why simplify the problem?
So we do, but the problem is that we've allowed the internal release working group working to leak out to the public.
Right, and let's change
because that active maintenance labeling is the way that the release working group is deciding when to backport things to the long-term support line. So that is part of the release policy, but it shouldn't be part of the public. Well, other than when someone in the public says, when is feature X going to be backported to Node, say 22, and we say, well, it won't now because Node, it won't in a week's time because Node 22 will then be in maintenance, so we won't be backporting features to it.
We should definitely let Antoine, Rob, and I will just say the very first version of this visualization, Colin Eric created it for a conference. So
can you repeat last part?
Colin Eric created it for a conference talk. So day one, this visualization was for public, for a discussion of how does LTS work?
Right.
Right. And from that day on, it became, this is the public image. So,
right.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyways, Ralph and Antoine.
Yeah, please.
I think I heard my name, but I didn't listen. Didn't hear the question.
No, I would. Yeah, but the idea, like, just if you can just take the reins here to make sure we actually go over each one of the proposals, and you can collect feedback in all of them, and we can see maybe one of them is very close to all of these ideas we've been talking about here, right?
Okay, so do you wanna move to the second one? Do we have time for that?
Yeah, we still have maybe, I think we have 30,
Okay.
40.
The rest of us are gonna be quiet and let you talk. Not interrupting. Yeah.
Okay, about the proposal one, what was the point of a rejection here? Because I think people just didn't understand the proposal of alpha and beta, but Michael also explained on the chat why we have that distinction. Is there any objection to this proposal? Just to clarify.
Can Michael, maybe Michael or you, can someone then maybe explain that? Like I missed that from the chat.
So I will quote Michael. If Michael is in the call, feel free to open the mic, okay? Michael said in the chat that alpha, beta, and current exist so commits are released and tested in the wild before they are backported to LTS. If we only have LTS, an unintended breaking change or bad bug will be directly released to LTS. That's why we have that convention of alpha on that proposal one.
I see. It's trying to, okay.
So I understand that we won't get a decision on this call, but if you can just write down the objections to each one of the proposal, that would make the final proposal much better. Okay.
Yeah.
The proposal number 2 is longer life cycle, where we let me check that one. We have increased the lifespan of versions line, but I'm not sure if that would solve the problem, right?
I guess
Let
the
me
question is
check.
what problem? So
What-
I think
The
there's
problem with maintenance, what I have in mind is the problem with maintenance, and but looks like we only have 2 active release lines per lifespan. I look into the chat.
For proposal 2, what's the point of the 2-month maintenance for odd number of releases? That feels like unnecessary burden. They're not going to be LTS anyway. Why
Yes.
are we?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the time from transitioning to, for instance, 27 to 28. So you have like a short period of time where maybe you can't, like, for instance, you can't migrate from 27 to 28, and at 27 if it goes end of life, you won't get a security release for 2 months. But I agree that it can be removed.
So this was one of the weird things. My memory was that we didn't used to do security releases once a current release went end of life. But I couldn't find it written down anywhere in release policy. So, it started happening. But I'm pretty certain when, for example, Beth was doing the majors, we just, the current release just ended at the end of April. And we then took like case by case decisions. Like if there was a security bug found in like the first week of May or the end of April, we would make a decision, within the release and security as to, is that important enough to do a security release for, say, in this case, Node 25, or is it that, we just say, no, 25 is now end of life, move to 26 because it's the new current. I think that's what we did in the past, but I just couldn't find it written down anywhere. So we've continued.
It was never by policy, it was always by convention. But that came up a number of times about whether we were gonna do it, and nobody wanted to make it a policy, and so we had to do it. We always wanted to have the option of not. So, yeah.
That makes sense. So the problem or the trade-off of this proposal is that we will have longer cycles to release never major. So if we are about introduce a breaking change, these things might need to wait some time. And the other thing is that we will have active. No, I think this proposal is okay. I don't see a problem on that. Look, I didn't create all the proposals, so I'm reading that in the moment with you all. So
I think the question is, like you said, the lengthening of some of the majors, and that includes, for example, the V8 updates. So, you know, if there is some language feature coming in a new version of V8, are people willing to wait the extra 6 months?
But they wait anyway nowadays, right? Because they don't use current.
Right. So this is the trap. It's like who is waiting? So people deploying applications on, for people to use, users, they will wait, or they will lag adoption. But if we're talking about people writing modules, they probably want to. Well, the whole reason we have current is to enable people writing modules to get ahead of the actual users later down the line. So I don't know. It's a question of like, we keep saying no one's using current, but I don't believe that's true. People are using current. It's just a much smaller set of people.
Okay, I think I saw a problem here because I was only looking to if we are going to switch it now, so we have at maximum 3 active release lines. But when you go to, for instance, Node.js 34, if we are going to release security release, we have four active release lines to do backports and security fixes. Which is Node.js 30, Node.js 32, Node.js 34, and 35. So I think over time, we will, these will overlap and we will fall in the same situation where we will have 4 active release lines to do security releases, which is the end of 30 and end of 32. This can only be solved by reducing the maintenance, but then we fall in the problem of people want a bigger support window for LTS line. So it doesn't change the current problem. It's a temporary solution, I guess.
Right.
Let's. Any other comment for proposal 2, or can we go to the 3?
I'm also saying this, with this overlap, we're doing that's 2 majors a year still.
We are doing, yes, kind of.
I don't see this addressing, depending on, again, it depends on how we message it and how we package it and stuff, but I don't see this reducing the confusion with users that we've already talked about.
Yeah, and not,
I agree.
Apply to the releases either. So, okay, I would move to the proposal number 3.
Okay, proposal number 3. Less frequent LTS. I'm checking that, okay, while we all checking as well. I think if we just look to the Node.js 29 release, we also fall in the same sense that we will have 4 active release lines to backport. Node.js 24 and 2 Node.js 29.
No, but you need to go look further because 26 is kind of still a transition period, right?
Yeah.
So I think you need to look further.
Yeah, I think once we get past that transition period, it becomes for a 2-month period, we have we still have a period, but there's 4.
Yeah, there's more periods. Yeah.
You gotta look, yeah. Right here, 1, 2.
But what if we cut the maintenance of the current in this proposal here? If it does not have these little maintenance periods, then it doesn't have the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because it has like this 2-month maintenance at the end.
Yeah, if we trimmed that,
yeah,
we would only have 3, but yeah.
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 Okay, if we reduce the maintenance window for current line, so current, which is odd numbered releases, they won't have maintenance mode. They will go from current directly to end of life.
Yeah, to the next current, yeah.
I mean, that kind of makes it even.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that makes it even like less like able to be used by, you know, serious enterprise production users, right? Like if you have to cut over immediately and deal with a bunch of API breaks, otherwise you're not going to get security releases, just game over. Which is fine for me personally, but I don't know if it's fine for everyone.
It still means that the release team has to make those current releases that quote unquote no one uses and confuse people as to why we release them.
Yeah, I think it doesn't address the confusion problem. It might address some the release cycle. But,
I think the only way to
that's not more than even.
We talk about it, like the, you know, I honestly think the confusion is more of a marketing problem. You know, like how we package up the public statement about it. That's how we address confusion.
It could be decoupled, yeah.
We need to decouple.
Okay, so let's not consider a communication issue here. Let's not consider the version number anymore. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
much.
Yeah,
Okay.
code name pieces like, you know, Ubuntu, you know, Bionic, stuff like that, which does cover multiple versions. You know, that, I think it is quite clear to people.
So 3, this is proposal 3, right? Yep. 3 here, I think if we trim that maintenance on the currents, yes, that it's good point that it means it's a hard cutoff and people like can, like, you know, yes, there are some companies that are taking currents to get features more frequently and that kind of thing, but I think this would naturally force they have to make a decision. Do they want the new features or do they want the stability? If they want the stability, then you're sticking to the LTS line, you're not going to get the features frequently. If you want the features, you're not going to get the necessarily get that stability. That's the trade-off. Simple, it makes the decision very, very simple.
Yeah, is there anything wrong with people going from current to current at their own peril? Like they're choosing to do that. Like we're talking about end users here.
Did this still have this proposal also have a very long active period still for
yes.
Yeah, which I just wonder, like, isn't that still putting a lot of pressure because we have to backport everything, right?
I think that's a slightly different conversation, but
and do we all agree? This is not clear for me, but is it common sense that we don't want the odd numbered releases, or do you want to have odd numbered releases to be meaningful, or we want to keep them as it is, like just we are just releasing that because of to make development easier, or I don't know.
I don't think we should care. My personal opinion, I don't think we should care about that. We should care about the main problems we identified at the beginning. Improving the health for the release working group, you know, taking care of the use cases of the enterprise and the end users, and that's it. I think that we could decouple things and figure out a much better way to communicate the marketing side of this.
And I would say that the more we can get away from talking about individual releases, the better. Like it's either current LTS.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, modulo the discussion about like exactly which version, you know, you have to upgrade to whatever else. I mean, that's legitimate. But in terms of communication, in terms of planning, in terms of expectation setting, you're either on current or you're on LTS.
All right.
Period. You're not on are you on an even version or are you on odd version? That is just
yeah.
I just want to add to that, James. I think that we also want to talk about impact when we do releases, because you know, what's the actual goal? If you're constantly like, oh, update, like people are getting confused, as we've already discussed. But if you're doing like a big release, like 1 to 2 times a year, I kind of feel like that helps even with adoption, because someone's like, oh, it's time to, it's September, I'm just making that up, September, I'm gonna update my Node.js.
Yeah.
And having that steady, like, I update my Node.js in September.
Yeah.
I think, makes a bigger impact on, like, cause they're not constantly having to track, oh, do I have to update right now? So.
Yeah,
Agreed, and just what I've seen, even in like small startups, it's typically, they only upgrade code once a year. And like, it's not frequent, like.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's certainly some companies who care about bringing new features at a regular cadence, but in practice, I think that's less so for people putting stuff into production, at least. They like more snapshot in time. Not universally, but.
Yeah.
Now, local dev, very different story.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm talking about just for like the average
Yeah.
company that, in general, which we have a huge audience, obviously, so those are the people we want to focus our communication on, because all of you and, people who you're close to are in the loop, you guys are in the loop, so you know what's up.
okay, so.
The only downside I can see on this proposal, or one of them, is that, for instance, if we are going to do a security release for Node.js 40, we will need to create a backport that goes 4 lines behind to Node.js 36, which might contain a lot of breaking chains. Like, you need to create a new patch, like from scratch. So you need to create 2 completely different pull requests, which it is not very common to do things like that. Usually, the fixes are straightforward, but I'm just giving my perspective here.
But that's an existing problem we have right now, that
Exactly, it doesn't change
if you get a
much.
security, if you get a security patch right now, we have to backport them to Node.js 20.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's fortunately fairly rare for us to have that big, like a massive change, security change that requires a ton of work. I mean, fortunately, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but.
I think it's mainly been if there's a dependency involved that we couldn't update on the older release line.
Yeah.
However, this doesn't change the frequency of release, right? We will still have twice releases per year.
Again,
Well, we have many
I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think it's in how we communicate it. Like, we need.
No, I'm not saying about communication. Is more about releases, because we need to have releases for those 2 major releases, right?
For the 2 LTS, you mean?
For 2 year LTS, yeah. There's still two majors a year. And that's fine. I think what we can do is rely more on automation for these, like they just naturally like cut it at a certain date, whatever's in Maine. That's that release. And then from a communication perspective, though, we focus on this is what was delivered over the year, right? And so it's like I think that cadence is fine, particularly for the ecosystem of module developers that need to keep up and test these things and make sure they're rolling out. I think that where this really comes in is there's less backporting, but way less backporting in this.
Yeah, and one thing is that we are nowadays, if we expect all the even number release to be LTS, that won't happen with this proposal. So for instance, we will have Node.js 28 as LTS, and then the next LTS will be Node.js 32, if I'm reading that correctly, right?
Yeah.
Again, I understand that we could communicate Node 28 and Node 30 for community, that's fine. But I feel that if I'm reading that graph correctly, we have, instead of twice releases major releases per year, we might have almost three several major releases per year.
Yeah, but it devalues them, right? It becomes simpler. I don't know. I have the impression, looking at it, it seems to me like they should be simpler. There's no LTS flipping at the same time, so.
I do have one concern, and it's more of a marketing perspective concern. the switching to a 2-year LTS, send the, give the perception in the ecosystem that Node's not moving as fast?
It's a good question. I'd have to think on that. I wanna say no, since we're doing it, it's about, right, it's about perception when you think about marketing, like, if I'm not posting anything we all are doing for 2 years, obviously people are gonna be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But if we're actively talking about the things that we're doing and we're showcasing the work that's being done, because we all know there's work being done, that's a different story. And again, like I said, let's go back to like the impact and intentions of our releases. I'd rather a super intentional release be posted than a bunch of little ones, I guess.
Sure.
And that's just me from a marketing perspective, and I know that I don't know anything that you all do behind the scenes, but something to consider.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, so that's just time check. We have half an hour left. I like put a pin on this proposal. I kind of like it. I think it's more iterative. We can come back to it if we decide this is the best. Let's try to cover 4 and 5. Yeah. Just
Okay, great. Let's go. Proposal 4. No active LTS anymore. The name, I didn't like the name, but let me check. We have the current duration of 12 months, and then we have maintenance duration of 24 months. The current, the total lifespan we have nowadays is 30 months, right? Let me check. No, it's 36 months, so it doesn't change.
It's 36 months, but this proposal would cut the LTS maintenance. This will cut the LTS window down by 6 months, which, I think let's have to wait. But I think in terms of like dropping the active part from a releaser point of view, I think this would make things easier. So there's two thoughts about backporting. One is the number of backports we have to do, and then the other one is how close is the code to the code on main. So you've got this weird balancing act, which is the more you backport, the easier it is to backport an individual thing, because then you're backporting, like if someone does a code refactor and we don't backport that, then suddenly the backport becomes really hard to take back to the early release lines. But on the other hand, active is almost like a huge faucet. You turn the faucet and a whole bunch of stuff is eligible for backporting. But if you're in maintenance, you then get into like, we just pick, we become a lot more selective in terms of what we pick back to releases. And saying no features, that automatically says, right, we're not going to backport that because that's a feature, doesn't get backported. Now, I understand, and that's going to cause, people are unhappy that features wouldn't land in a long-term support release. But I think at least from a maintenance point of view, I actually think it would make the releaser's job of releasing releases easier. But I think I might not, people may have other views. But I honestly do think that being able to just immediately, say this block of PRs are not going to land on LTS is actually going to reduce the amount of work that we need for each release.
I agree. I definitely agree. And it seems that once we have that overlap of now all the lines will have meaningful requests, and they will have a long support window if you consider all the maintenance. The only problem I see here is that at some point, for instance, Node.js 26 until Node.js 29, we have 4 active release lines to maintain. But this seems, I personally like the idea.
Yeah, I think this has changed. We could also just have a different kind of workflow. We would just tell collaborators, okay, don't expect your new feature is not going to be backported automatically. But you could tell people that they can champion something, so that they land an important feature, they want to see that in an LTS, they could be champion that, they could do the backport themselves, right? They could do the work that is necessary. So there is also that perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Ruben has his hand up.
I am certain this will simplify our process. I'm not completely convinced that it will reduce the overall work too much, because maybe in the older release lines there will still be many issues for backporting. It's more of, well, if that is the case, then maybe we don't backport all that much anymore, which is an acceptable outcome for me personally. And nevertheless, there is another thing that I'm worrisome about it, and like shortening the LTS time will very likely cause an like a scream in the ecosystem. I fear that very strongly, that they definitely want to have a longer support. And like it's a very big complaint when other platforms don't have long-term support more, because most users do not change their Node major version significantly. Sometimes they don't change it at all. So
Just one thing to include before Brian is that nowadays what they do is that they jump from Node.js 20 to Node.js 22 and 22 to 24. So they have two major releases that they need to handle. Now with this proposal, they just need to handle one.
I don't even think companies, I don't think everyone does that. I think some people actually skip LTS versions. So they go from like 20 to 24. So, you know, it's not just that they go from one LTS to the next. Some of them are actively skipping an LTS to update less often. I think I agree with Ruben that if we shorten the LTS support window, that's going to be very unpopular. I know that I do hear lots of, you know, I've said it earlier, there is a desire to have longer support windows, but I don't think that's necessarily something we have to do, because you know, in an ideal world, everything is supported for as long as, you know, we have the ability to do so. But I think keeping the LTS windows, you know, assuming we have the capacity to do that, is a minimum, because otherwise we're going to be, like you say, in a world of grief, especially since we are trying to heavily promote the ecosystem sustainability stuff, because then the optics of shortening the support window is we are trying to funnel more people to the revenue sharing programs that the foundation has. Now, maybe that's a good thing for the project, but I mean, like I said, the optics of that is bad.
Brian?
Can I mention something, please? As a Node.js tooling author for 10 years or over that, I don't care about LTS. My users don't care about LTS. They want to install what we say to install. Sometimes they fix what else they have in the machine that needs to be installed. I can't tell you what version of the LTS version is in the 20 or 22 and 24 line. I don't know it. And my users don't either. So I like this a lot because it just simplifies everything. There's just use Node, whatever, and then move on, we'll update it, you know what I mean? And then the second thing is in the package JSON, under engines, Node, a lot of packages will say you have to use Node 20.17 or newer. Well, I just published a major version that dropped Node 18 and older, and I said it can use 20 and newer, but now I can't upgrade a dependency that says 20.17 and newer, whatever it is. And now I gotta wait for the next major version before I can update to that. So this helps me.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of like mid version and engines and what.
Brian English.
Sorry, there's like 4 Brians in this room. Makes it confusing. Okay, I think one interesting thing I'm seeing is that there's a bunch of differing opinions from library authors even in this room. That's a pretty interesting one to me. Um, Overall, the concept of not having multiple active active LTS, any release line at all, depending on your definition, where backporting happens that isn't just security or other fixes, that's problematic to me as a library author, like wearing that hat, particularly because I have to support users going back quite a few versions anyway. Like the library I work on most of the time outside of Node is always supporting some end of life version of Node. Now, problems with that aside, that does mean that if we're never backporting anything, I have to wait even longer to use any newer features. Perhaps that can give me some performance benefits, things like this. That's a pretty big problem. And also, I just wanted to echo the whole idea that shortening from 36 months for LTS would make it absolutely not like L in LTS. But anyway, yeah.
The L is relative.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen a lot of companies, it's like they upgrade and yeah, they do want to stay on the same version. What I've seen, I think predominantly is actually skipping every other LTS, like, yeah, again, anecdotes or sample size, but I see that a lot.
Well, I don't think that's because of every other. I think that's because that just happens to be the time when the version they're on is about to no longer be supported, so they're forced to move.
Yeah.
We got some people on the call, Ruben has his hand up now.
I think Jacob was next anyway. Jacob?
Ruben was before me.
Well, Ruben?
No, I accidentally had it still up.
Oh, okay, cool. So I think we've been talking about it in a little bits here and there, and I think this is maybe what Brian was talking about, but I think probably some of the confusion from this chart is there are so many things. Like, what if we just reduced it down to, you have two options. You are either on current/stable or you're on the previous. Current stable lasts a year, and previous has LTS support for 1 or 2 years or something, and then that's it. There are the only two lines. Anything older than that is dead. Maybe if there's like some crazy security thing, we'll patch that, but that's not guaranteed. That's like case by case. We decide, oh shit, okay. That's it.
Yeah, trying to visualize it, but yeah, I don't know, yeah, can't really. But yeah, let's again time check. We want to check the fifth proposal. I think it's the last one, right? Like, and then we
The
have
final,
to ask.
yeah. I can't read the graph because it's overlapping. I don't have much information on that as well. Just one thing that we want to echo is the comment from Vladimir that reducing LTS, shortening LTS window is I believe it's a common problem to any enterprise or any big company. Actually, any company that runs several Node.js projects. Some of them they just don't want just don't want new features. They don't want performance. They just want to keep that running. So okay, proposal 5. Do you have more information about this one, Antoine?
It's James who proposed it, so maybe.
Okay.
I thought about this one.
Right, sure.
This was the throw our hands up and give up, just go Semver and separate the marketing discussion entirely. Right, and this is just automate the releases, right? Whatever is in main, right? This could be cutting releases nightly, cutting major every month. Kind of thing, and just letting that process automate. And then for releases, in terms of the marketing message, once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, whatever, we put together a message, this is what we delivered, right? And if we do an LTS on this cycle, we pick one last known good a year, right? And we say, that's our LTS. And that's the one we maintain for the 36 months. It means the version numbers become far less meaningful, right? We might tick up, if we do a major every month, we might, go up 12 majors a year. Okay, now whether this is ideal or not, one part of my brain wants to slap me, to say, no, this is kind of crazy, but I think with the proper way of packaging the marketing of it and the communication, it's viable. I think there's another side of it though, that, you know, that like, hey, what version are you running so I can fix your bug? This is the part that's screaming at me and saying no. So, you know, yes, I came up with the idea, am I sold on it? Hell no. But yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I think there is a good aspect to it that like browsers are kind of already doing this strategy, right? Like everything, like
Yeah,
always
it's
major.
160 right now.
Yeah. So I think that there's some acceptance from the user point. But here, just looking at the graph, we still have the problem with 4 concurrent release lines, no?
No, well, it doesn't. There's only one that would need to be backported to. The other ones are main.
So the gray bars should probably either go away
or some, yeah, it's where there's still an overlap for maintenance, so security releases will still have a burden. But there's no backporting.
Okay, no, but I mean security releases. Yeah, security releases you could have potentially to still have to handle four release lines. Yeah. So is the maintenance period here really essential to the strategy or?
No, it's just having an LTS. And ideally with this, I think this only works if the LTS is no backwards. Because that will add a major burden, because we're moving so fast that it's just like.
So just if I understand correctly, we will have releases very often, but we won't communicate that. This will be like internal releases. And then we will keep cutting that. And then when we decide, okay, these we believe that the last year we have the binary stable enough to cut LTS.
Yeah. That's it, exactly.
So this will be so we won't have a schedule. So this might be a huge problem for enterprise, right?
There can still be a schedule. Like I said, the releases would be automated. So we would do like nightlies, and we would do like you know, maybe do a Semper Minor on weekends, and then maybe every 6 months or 6 weeks we cut the majors, right? Those would be at the, you know, defined periods in the calendar. And then what we would say is a particular, like say in October, September, whatever major is cut in that month, that's the one that's going to go LTS. So like, and we can say that in advance. And we can actually, you know, we can put that out on the calendar years in advance, right? Because we know that it's just going to be like on days, weeks, you know, or month boundaries, we can schedule that out. And we'll just have to make sure that, yes, that is stable, right? And if we get to that point where that version that we want to cut isn't stable for some reason, then we can make a decision to maybe go back to the last known good, right?
How do we wanna know? How we would know that if that version is stable, if most of the users want to use that?
Yeah, and that, like I said, you know, I'm nowhere near convinced that this is the right thing, specifically for those reasons.
Right.
So.
Okay.
I noticed Jisung has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that this version strategy makes sense for browser because browser users are not so cared about the version of the browser they use, but the user of Node.js do care about the version that they use.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, good point.
Yep.
Okay, so notes taken. We have identified the issue with this proposal, but I believe that we are in the direction that it might be an alternative or merge that together with proposal 1 or other proposal. I believe that the proposals that we found less problematic is possibly the proposal number 1, right? So is that fair to assume that we might want to
I had the impression it was number 3. Maybe everyone has one different choice in mind.
Yeah, okay, I can't remember. I put multiple proposals, and I don't know if my other proposal was 3 or 4, but I think I talked myself into agreeing with my own proposal or talked myself against agreeing with it. I can't remember, but I like to agree.
Okay,
I think-
so can we use that pool again? You can edit your response to vote in your the proposal you believe that we might want to create an alternative or a variation of that proposal. We are going to send the pool again. Brian sent in the chat. Okay, Antoine sent. I will send in the Slack again.
Are these,
Oh.
okay, are they in
Wrong
order on the form? Because they're not labeled.
Yeah, I sent a new one with the status quo in case
Okay,
all the
good one.
proposal you think don't look good.
Okay, but these are in order of the proposals. Okay, good.
Can refer back to the document.
3, 4. There's not an option to vote hell no for my own proposal. The last one. All right.
Just a note, you can vote by just more than once. Okay, so like select the sort you want.
All right.
For reference, is it wrap it up the vote on this and then break?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Yes.
Yeah. Same chance.
Oh, Rafael, you're mute. Can hear you.
Oh, we have 14 votes and we have 24 participants. So maybe if that number comes a bit closer, we can finish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, great.
I guess I don't. Yes, yeah, like the release actions, there's some data that tells you like, yeah.
Okay, Rafael, should we wrap?
Okay. Yes, we have 16 votes. And the top one is no active LTS anymore. And then the second one is longer life cycles LTS. So they are very close, each one. So maybe Antoine, can you store those the results? We can also understand the ones that people seems bad, which looks like people still don't like the status quo. So It's also important point here. And the proposal number 2, the proposal, let me see the number, no active LTS anymore, is the number 4, right? Yeah, number 4 and the number 2. So maybe we will find a way to merge that together. But I think that was a useful discussion. So when before closing this Zoom call, make sure to send me the recording and also the chat message so I can try to find a way to create meeting notes for this discussion, because this will be very useful for next iteration. Hopefully AI will give me a hand on that. But
yeah,
I think that's it. Yeah.
I just wanna, like, one final comment is, I wanna make sure we capture in those notes that the point about separating, like drawing a distinction between how we handle releases internally and how we talk about them with marketing.
Yeah.
It's too confusing.
Yeah.
Alright, so we need to make sure.
I think that's what Ruben's basically suggesting also with the proposal 4 is currently no active. Ruben was suggesting in the Zoom chat that we do proposal 4, but only active, no maintenance, and leave it entirely up to releasers internally to decide.
There's too many nouns that mean almost the same thing right now. But we're simplifying.
But just like there's no contract about when backports can or cannot come in. It's just every release is up to the releasers.
Well, Ruben wants to add something.
Sorry, say again, please.
You have your hand up. You want to add something?
Like it was pretty much summarized by Jordan. Just so.
No, I mean, this illustrates the confusion between the terminology, because for the release working group, we can backport, at our discretion, features in the maintenance phase, and we have done that. The difference is the default expectation. So the default expectation of active LTS is that all features, as long as they don't break or and land cleanly, will go into the LTS line automatically. I say automatically, work has to be done, but it's this expectation criteria, which is at the moment what we term active in the release group, means that when a release is in active LTS, then if there is something concurrent that's a feature, that will automatically, as long as that lands on the LTS line cleanly, that will land on the LTS line. There's no debate about yes or no. I mean, obviously, if there are known problems, we might have a discussion, but it isn't that we never land features in maintenance. It's just that when we're in maintenance, it's rare, as in it really is up to the release working group to make that distinction. There's no automation. There's no automatic path that a feature will land once on a release line that's in maintenance. And again,
Absolutely,
this is the difference between the terminology that we're using internally in the release group, the terminology we're using within the project, and then, like, as come up in the discussions, the terminology that ends up being sent out to all the users and the marketing and everything like that. So, even within our project, there is confusion as to what the terms mean. But yeah, I agree with Rafa that it's been a useful exercise that we can at least narrow down some of those options and continue to iterate on those and refine them, because I don't think any single one of them, was free from concerns or criticisms, but at least it gives more direction as to where to steer the conversation.
Yeah.
Ruben?
And can I
one more point
ask
about that?
this, just one thing, can I ask, as we're going through this, that the release team invite Kylie to the meetings on this, so that while this is also being put together, that whatever this release schedule is, a marketing schedule can also be figured out?
I'd also love to be there because I have to change NVM with whatever changes we make potentially.
Right, but should that meeting happen once we decide a new schedule?
Whatever the release team decides, like as this conversation progresses in the release team, please invite Kylie.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
To those calls.
It makes.
A lot of our discussion is actually around 2 different interest groups, and there are probably more, but the biggest interest groups is like our internal releasing. How difficult is it to do so? And actually, that's why I believe we can just remove like active and maintenance LTS. We just have LTS, and release team will decide how difficult it is, and we just backport whatever we can. And when we say like, nah, it doesn't work anymore, then we just don't. But there is no fixed time anymore, no guarantees, no arguments, and that will already release a little bit of pressure. That was like for the internal side. And also it makes it easier for the external side to communicate, because understanding it from a user perspective, we only have LTS, but we don't give guarantees if something is backported or not. Like if it is, great, you can ask for it and we will say yes or no. That's it. And there is not much more to it. Which also simplifies the process. I don't believe we may shorten any time period, because I believe that like the fallout happening in the ecosystem would be too high, and we all have to take that into account quite strongly as well. So it's like really this balance between how much work do we have versus what do we get back from the community when we change something.
This is fantastic conversation. Thank you, Russ and Anton, for compiling those options together. It made it a lot less confusing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was really helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Antoine, for creating the script for all of that. And thank you, everybody, for participating. This time it was very easy to collaborate remotely. So thank you for all the initiative and this new webcam that I need to buy one for my house.
Yes, we need one for Collab Summits now. I kind of like the setup too. Okay, so yeah, thanks everyone. We're gonna wrap now. We have a good break here for folks in person. We're gonna have a long lunch time here. I think we set aside 2 hours, and then we're gonna reconvene for the afternoon to the remaining sessions. So I'm gonna stop the Zoom call now. I'm gonna kill it. So we have the record. Rafael, I'll send you the chat. I also saved the chat here, and I'm gonna start a new one for the afternoon. So whoever is interested, just keep an eye on the GitHub issue on the Collab Summit channel on Slack, and I'll try to paste the links there when we're back up. All right? Okay, see you all. Bye.